Once again, on behalf of our founder president, our trustee, our group vice chancellor, our chancellor, Dr. Atul Chauhan, we thank all of you for joining us, and specifically a big thanks to all the researchers who have put in so much of hard work and submitted their wonderful research papers. We are very happy that after the peer review process, they have been shortlisted. We are also very happy, Dr. Sayyed, that you could join us in the inaugural. It was an honor for us to have you there, and we look forward to your talk this afternoon.
So the event will observe an august gathering of eminent personalities from Uzbekistan, researchers and students from across the globe. We could not meet in the prevailing conditions of the pandemic, but this will not stop us following the tradition of exchanging knowledge, innovation, and creating research environment for the next generation. I would like to thank our conference chair, Dr. Naina Chaudhary, who has been a guiding light through which we deliver such amazing conferences. Our session chairs for the day are Professor Saeed Akhtar Hussain, University of Liberal Arts, Bangladesh; Professor J.S. Chassi, Dean Academic, Amity University, Uttar Pradesh; Dr. Vimal Vibhu, Head of the Department of Computer Science, Amity University, Uttar Pradesh; Dr. Arun Pratap Srivastav. I welcome you, sirs. Moving ahead with the presentation of the research ideas we have received, I take the very first title, paper ID 10. An improved model for opinion mining of public reviews using recurrent neural network, and it will be presented by Mr. Vishwas Vishwakarma. Sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Please share your screen. I request all the authors to be concise in the presentation, focusing on the research part and the novel part for about 5 minutes. Mr. Vishwas, please carry. Okay.
Ma'am, actually, there are 3 members in my team, so we all 3 will present.
Okay. Okay. So your paper will be presented by Mr. Yash Pratap Singh and Ms. Srishti Srivastava.
Yes, ma'am, and Sparshi Kapil.
A very good afternoon to everyone, and I extend my warm welcome to everyone. So my name is Sparshi Kapil, and I'm going to present the research paper, and the title of our research paper is so I'm sorry for the interruption. The title of our paper is An Improved Model for Opinion Mining of Public Reviews Using Recurrent Neural Network. And the authors are Yash Pratap Singh, me, Srishti Srivastava, Vishwas Vishwakarma, and we were guided by our professor, Mr. Prabhat Singh. So next slide, please. So the main project objective of this research paper is to classify the reviews as positive and negative. And in our research paper, we have used various neural networks like simple neural network, recurrent neural network, and convolutional neural network. And then we have concluded that RNN is the best approach for this classification. And now Srishti will tell you the steps involved in this project. So over to you, Srishti.
Yeah, so here are the main steps. First is problem definition, which Sparshi has already explained. The major and the first initial step that we have performed is dataset selection. And we have used an already existing dataset from Kaggle websites, which includes the public reviews regarding any contents of the movie. And the next step which we have performed is data pre-processing, which involves the removal of special characters, HTML tags, and other extra words and letters that are of no use in analysis. The next is preparation of embedding layer. It involves the use of tokenizer class and creation of a word-to-index dictionary. And embedding matrix is also being prepared using globe word embeddings. And the most important step is building a neural network. And in this, text classification is done by building a simple neural network. And we have analyzed our model using different neural networks also. Next. So here we can see the architectural design of our model, which depicts the outline of basically our project. And in this, we can see that training set and input text, the punctuations and stop words are being removed. now the input text in the training set can be fed into the model easily and help the feature extractor to work accordingly and efficiently, because the noise is also get reduced. And after that classifier categorizes the input text, finally the polarity of input text is also determined. Next.
So here is the flowchart that depicts the outline of our project. The data is to be passed in this model is obtained from the product and or a service review website. And here in this case, we use the dataset from Kaggle website. Public reviews with their keywords are extracted and passed in the model. After that, the data preprocessing is done. Data preprocessing is done in order to remove the special character and tags which are not relevant for our model. And then the data is further splitted into the training and the testing set. The preparation of the embedding layer is done followed by the selection of best suited model according to the accuracy and differences between the training and the testing accuracies. Here is the description of the flowchart that I have explained earlier. Comparative analysis. As we have discussed that the model is based on three classifiers, that is the simple neural network, recurrent neural network, and convolution neural network. So from here we compare both the three neural networks. The comparison is done between the training and the testing accuracies. The model performing correspondingly in the training and the test set is preferable. In other words, overfitting occur when differences between the training and the test accuracies is high, so that the difference should be minimum for best performance of our model. In simple neural network, the flattening and the embedding layers are used as per the implementation. The training accuracy is 85.91% and the testing accuracy is 74.61%, which we can also see in the plots. This model overfits the data because the difference between the training and the test accuracy is very high. Now over to Srishti for next two slides.
As Vishwas has explained that we have done a comparative analysis. So after the simple neural network, we have performed a convolutional neural network with the help of the same data. And we get the training accuracy of 93% and test accuracy of 84.5%, which is comparatively better than SNN model. And we can also see through the plots that overfitting and the difference between the plots in the training and test data is comparatively less than simple neural network. But still the overfitting occurs because still the difference can be seen. Next. Finally, we have worked with a recurrent neural network, and in this we get the training accuracy of 85.89% and test accuracy as 85.01%. Although the accuracies were moderate, but we can see through the plots that overfitting occurs here is minimum. Hence, we can say that RNN best suits the data sets and best suits the problem which we are up to. Next. So here is the table depicting all the training and testing accuracy, and clearly we can see that RNN performs comparatively better than SNN and CNN. So here are some of the references that we have considered while preparing a research paper.
Thank you so much.
It's very interesting work, but just to ask the researchers, you had any chance to see the deployment in the real life? Like, you could come up with a use case where you could, take your model to see how it performs. Any chance of looking at it?
Actually, we have not deployed it, but yes, talking about the accuracies, we have compared the accuracies using the graphs and all. So yes, the accuracy was compared.
Yeah, but the accuracy in the real life could be mind-blowing because it is not at all performing, or could be something beyond your expectation. But real life accuracy, what we are actually practically looking at this hour, that whatever paper we have in terms of machine learning, classification accuracy based on real life use case is most desirable. So I think I will ask you to look at the future. If you can think practical use cases, just apply your model, and perhaps you may be very, very happy to see it's performing.
Yes, we'll definitely include that in our scope.
So before we move to the next paper title, I've already introduced you to Professor Saeed Akhtar Hussain as a session chair. He will also deliver a keynote speaking session. Let me introduce you to his brief bio. He's currently working as professor and head of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at University of Liberal Arts, Bangladesh since 2021. He served in the same position at Daffodil International University since 2010. Professor Hussain obtained BSc and MSc in Applied Physics and Electronics with gold medal and distinction and PhD in Computer
Madam,
Science.
thank you so much. Don't read anymore. I myself is I'm an Amithian because I'm an honorary professor of Amity University since 2015. And you don't have to read anything. I'm very happy that when I come and meet my colleagues at Amity in virtual or physical, I always love dancing with my colleagues at Amity University, and this virtual at Tashkent campus, I'm surely looking forward to visit you in the coming year. But just allow me, then I can take all our researchers and audience into a small talk of. Will you allow me?
Yes, sir. Of course, sir.
Thank you so much, and with your this little intro is good enough for me. Thank you so much, and I'm just taking you through screen share. I hope I can share the screen. Yes. And I'm sharing the whole screen so that, I can take you to my presentation. Is the presentation is visible? I'll put off my video.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. And my talk actually will be somehow a little interesting, or, I don't want to make a boring talk. So I will try to make my, learned gathering, especially the researchers and the very wise people here. My context of thinking actually is different. I'm working very closely with the government and different agencies in the country. And cybersecurity research practically has become somewhere or other, last 2-3 years, it has grown in a different dimension. So I'm going to actually highlight some of the research issues in terms of prospects and challenges in this particular talk. So I will try not to cross 30 minutes, but I will try to be very specific while I'm sharing my thoughts. So with this, actually, let me take you to my next, first slide. Actually, I love to put this quotation because what happens when it comes to cybersecurity, we always talk about efficient cyber defenders. You may think that I'm talking about certain software, certain hardware, or maybe certain techniques. But believe me, the 5 most efficient cyber defenders belongs to our own human endeavors. We start with anticipation, is a quality of human. That's we can always anticipate. Machine, what we say prediction, is more strongly anticipation in human. And our education to understand the situation. And then thereafter, our ability to detect something which is happening. And once we are able to detect that something is happening, we are able to react as soon as we can. And whatever be the situation is, we can stand out, resilience. So these 5 human endeavors is a famous quotation by a person, Stephen Onapo. He was the former director of FBI, and he actually left the FBI job in 2017. But as you can understand, that cybersecurity is actually has become different due to 4th industrial revolution, AI, and added different layer of machine learning and intelligence, made this cybersecurity a different war field altogether. So I'm going to take you to some of the very interesting discussion points here. The first few points I will be actually, sometimes I will be actually very brief, but in some cases I will be actually giving you understanding. Cybersecurity perspectives, understanding of that, artificial intelligence perspective is a general issues. It is very general in terms of its content. AI role in cybersecurity, you may have some amount of new ideas. Cybersecurity research is very, very important, where I will share some of the insights. Some of the directions in cybersecurity research, which actually covers wider aspects. Believe me, cybersecurity today and is going to be much more difficult in coming time. We talk about some prospects and challenges with some references. Let's proceed to the next one, that when we talk about perspectives, cybersecurity perspectives, we talk about actually nothing but a set of principles and practice. What we want to safeguard. What we want to safeguard, we want to safeguard our machines, our computers, our networks, our programs, and data. But believe me, data has become more critical than ever. It was never in the landscape of cybersecurity, but it has become the most vital attacking element of today, the data. Why? Because your data is driving the intelligence. And if I can somehow manipulate your data, if I can do some kind of injection in the data, and your decision automatically will create havoc in your ultimate system, and you suffer. That's what the plan is. So cybersecurity is continuously evolving, as you understand, because of technology. And one thing happened is the pandemic. This pandemic and the rapid digital transformation of business, because what happens due to survival, we know in pandemic is still going on. Many businesses just simply rolled out. Many businesses could not survive because they could not be online. Many businesses, day and nights, they transform themselves into online, having a lot of security holes, and that became a very vital playground for cyber, crime criminals who actually started, dancing on the machines and all things. So let me take you further into the discussion. It's very interesting that the perspective changes, but we talk about, most important area is the application security. We have information security, question of disaster recovery, network security, but above all, we talked about some new security is a business process security, because business process today has become intelligent, especially you brought AI. And when you brought AI, ultimately it is all about data. So the business process security is a new layer of security we have to address for the future. This 4 is very known, but this is something I added on the top of it because none of this security talks about process, but I'm trying to tell you that business process security is very vital today. So with this, I will just take you to some understanding. We know basically cybersecurity, we have 3 components. When we talk about 3 components, we have confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And these 3 actually evolves our entire cybersecurity understanding. I'll just show you very quickly. What confidentiality talks about, few things. It talks about protecting your information from unauthorized access so that customer steals username, password can be blocked. An example. So confidentiality is one of the key objective of cybersecurity. Just to give you some background before I talk about the research. Integrity is another very important component. You protect information from unauthorized modification. That means, imagine all of you have your own personal bank account and you know what is in the bank. And if somehow any alteration happens, you are not in a normal situation of living, So you have to protect. That's integrity is very, very important so that no one can alter your personal information. That's very important. And third objective, which is very, very important, is availability. Why? Because you preventing disruption, how information is accessed. Why? Because your service is 7 times 24 available. You never get out of it, but it's very challenging. Yeah. All right. So with this, I'll talk about some component for research. Before I take you into the actual research subject. This research component, I'm actually presenting some of the key aspects of CompTIA. This is actually a feedback. This is actually through through survey and survey of corporates and applications. These are the main issues driving cybersecurity. Imagine the hackers numbers is growing in number and the variety of attacks is changing. There are issues of privacy concern and the scale of attack is also increasing in number. Every number is increasing. Reliance on the data because applications are becoming more AI specific. Quantifying security issue is an issue, and the breadth of skills needed, it is growing. Regulatory compliance. So these are the key issues that is actually driving cybersecurity, because you really have to ensure these three objectives of cybersecurity. And then talking from the next one, I will show you another stats of cybersecurity practice in place. You see what happens. These are the different components. We start with the zero trust component, but these are the percentage. What happened is through the survey, they came up with this percentage. The number of organizations that actually addressing this. Threat modeling is a very key component due to AI. Then governance, risk, and compliance. Then talking about penetration testing, business continuity. These are all actually cyber security practices in place. Security monitoring, that means if you are deploying a cyber security, you really have to have any one of it in place. Threat intelligence is a very important aspect we'll be discussing. Incident detection and response, autonomous. But autonomy is a very challenging aspect. And I was very happy that I was in a session today, this morning, and you may know this term very well, but I'm writing here. We generally, GAN has become very, very popular in AI, especially in cybersecurity. And GAN, GAN is actually generalized adversarial network because of it can generate malicious patterns. We are talking about attack vectors to train your system to protect your system better than ever. So this has become a very key research issue today, that GAN is generalized adversarial network to deploy in cybersecurity. Of course, it is on the top of AI. So AI has become an integral part of cybersecurity. I'm going to show you that. All right, so talking from this point, why is another stats that need to improve threat understanding. And you can see threat understanding has two different aspects. One is that the virus, the spyware, the phishing, these are all different forms of attacks. Man in the middle, attack on virtualization, IoT attack is another type. You see here, denial of service attacks, denial of service but differential, botnets, SQL injection. You can name, these are actually typical attacks. But there is another new thing came up. I'll just write here because it is not in my slide. We call actually deep fake. Deep fake. But deep fake there are new algorithms coming, and deep fake has become a very key concern for the coming time. Social media, it's more like social media phishing. You are watching some video by a leader replaced by somebody else, and you won't understand that. So deepfake is a new evolving technology, and it's going to really, take some time to play around deepfake, and to counterfeit deepfake is very, very challenging. Yeah, so these are question of watermark coming, digital watermark, and other things are there. Yeah, so that's the question of ensuring the integrity. So deepfake is another new terminology beside this. So threat understanding is very crucial. Why? Because when we talk about cybersecurity research, for example, social engineering, if you want to come up with a very specific, holistic approach to fight social terror, social engineering attacks, you really need data. And I'm going to tell you that the data is the most challenging part in the entire research. So it's not like you can get or you can download, all attack vectors. It's very rare, and we need to create it. So talking from this point, I'll just take you to the artificial intelligence perspective. AI, all of us are familiar with. So we basically have machine learning, deep learning. main understanding, the principal requirement is that we analyze data from millions of cybersecurity incidents, and we try to identify a potential threats. The whole understanding is that I have attack vectors, I can identify patterns, and from the patterns, we can understand the nature of the attack. That is very, very challenging. I'm saying it is very challenging to map the attack pattern into a very specific type of attack. So you may have a really good research team to do that. It's very, very challenging. All right, so talking from this, I'll just tell you very quickly that what cyber criminals are doing, they are devising new techniques. Why? Because use machine learning to attack better. And today we basically have what we call is intelligent malware. And this is not a normal malware, but we call it intelligent malware. Intelligent malware study is needed. Intelligent malware creation is needed. Why? Because intelligent malware, once it gets into your machine, there is no reaction in a instant. Why? Because this malware gets activated based on certain data stats. So this intelligent malware, you will not be able to identify using any kinds of Windows Defender or anything. It's more like a normal software. It comes with a normal software. There is the intelligent malware that actually pass your all credentials and informations to a very specific network. And you, being an innocent, become a zombie. You actually become a part of a network where your informations are actually passed, your personal informations are passed. So it's very, very challenging. Now, what they're doing is they try to reach their target in any part of the world at any time. And there are a specific tool now I'm not going to show you now, but you can actually see the attack vectors, which country is attacking whom, and it is real time. You can really watch it and you'll be very surprised to see that there are countries generating cyber attacks, and you see the source countries, they're trying to defend that. It's the kind of thing happening almost around the clock. It's almost 7 times 24 now. So it's very difficult. Why? Because we need AI in order to analyze large amount of data, malicious code that includes malware codes, anomalies. But as you see that the primary target is data. Yeah, so data vulnerability is very high. I'm going to show you one very interesting picture, one interesting framework. Yeah, and let me take you further. This here that develop programs. So what happens? AI ultimately is getting used to leverage and develop intelligent malware programs. The primary idea is to develop intelligent malware. Yeah, and that executes stealth attack. Stealth attack means it resides in your machine, it develops some intelligence, and then finally, one day it starts actually acting. Yeah. So hackers are turning, to AI because weaponized malware. Yeah, that's very, very alarming. And criminals use AI to conceal malicious code in benign applications. Yeah. So what happens? You are actually installing certain software. You're having you are having an intelligent malware you don't know, and you never know until or unless you really reveals that there are attacks, and you can understand that. So, talking from this point, you can see that AI technologies, they're able to require knowledge and intelligence, of course, and create intelligent malware program is one of the key to understand the nature. So AI-based attacks may not succeed in the first attempt, as you see, but they succeed in subsequent attacks. Why? Because it gradually understands your users' patterns. And ultimately, this intelligence is very difficult to counterfeit, because you really don't know what algorithm, what type of intelligence in the particular malware is using. It's very challenging. All right, so with this, I will take you to the next one, is a different perspective. And AI roles in cybersecurity. You can see we can be very fast here. AI is transforming cybersecurity now. A very, very high-end transformation, better detect and block cybersecurity threats. more autonomous system. You see, more autonomous system. And it can learn independently because it is AI, and you are actually expanding the scope of the threat detection. So machine learning algorithms are excellent for identifying anomalies in any pattern, and that's where actually AI plays a very vital role in cybersecurity. And talking from this point is, you see, there are typical applications. I'll be just very brief here. Password protection authentication is common. AI and machine learning in phishing detection and prevention control. Many researches are happening here. AI ML can detect and track more than 20,000 active phishing. Source phishing is a very common attack, but it is really reduced today because many servers are deploying machine learning and filter it out. So we are trying to get rid of some of the phishing attacks. AI actually also uses of AI machine learning vulnerability management. Very, very important research in every country, you name it. Automated network and system analysis, because your AI-enabled cyber defense is something that you have to build, an automated analysis of system. But as I'm saying, you can only build if you have a research towards cybersecurity. Until unless you do research, you do not know what to deploy in terms of algorithm. You do not have the data set. You cannot deploy machine learning. Yeah, so that's a chicken and egg situation. And then scanning emails is also one part. We do anti-phishing emails with AI and machine learning. So AI and machine learning is highly engaged component. And you can see AI relies, innovations like machine learning, deep learning, everything, and including natural language processing. As you see in MIT, they have certain demand. There are about 85% of cyber attack AI can detect, but it depends again. And AI can immediately identify any anomalous behavior. But as you understand that cybersecurity and AI today has become a kind of inseparable element. You may not be able to separate it because it's actually highly using AI to deploy intelligent malware. So cybersecurity research I'm coming into, this is where we really have a focus. One is that what we need in terms of, we need to protect this internet connected system. What are those cyber threats, attacks, damage, or unauthorized access? But we need to deploy AI, machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing, knowledge representation reasoning. There are different aspects of it. And cybersecurity data source, we are talking about data set, which is the most challenging part, as you understand, because this is the primary component. And if you do not have attack vector, you do not know how to use AI, because you do not have any particular pattern of attacks. You need actually attack vectors to do that, and you can actually then use machine learning and deep learning techniques. So from there, I will actually try to be a little bit more elaborate. Like, primary and most fundamental challenge is to understand the real world security issues to explore and relevant cybersecurity data. This is very, very critical because certain attack, you understand the attack vector is a big knowledge. So what we need to extract insights or useful knowledge of future actions. So collecting the security data, it is not straightforward. You really have to have a very confidentiality, you have to maintain integrity and all those, and collect data of very high confidence is very challenging. So there are various real-time world data such as structured, semi-structured, unstructured, or metadata, particularly problem domain with legal access. Now, let me tell you what is problem domain. I'm talking about data. This is a business vertical I'm talking about. Let's say your cyber attack data for financial institution is not same as the cyber attack data for the educational sector, because every vertical has its own approach. And when hackers are actually attacking, for example, cyber criminals, they're attacking financial institutions is one type of attack as compared to attacking an educational institution. So it is a very, very problem domain specific data, but the challenge lies because cybersecurity today is not just only computing, not just even business, but it is actually legal, because you have to understand the law, you have to understand the, certain constitution, you have to understand the business perspective, because certain attack, you must understand the consequence of the attack. But if you have to understand the consequence of the data, consequence of the attack, you really have to have a good understanding on the business process impacts. But if you are not from business domain, if you are a just good computing guy, you may not understand the impact on business. You may not understand impact on health, because health sector is a very, very vulnerable sector to work with. Yeah. All right. So I hope I'm able to raise some question in your mind. Well, one thing is very important is observing attack patterns in time series, behavioral analysis, data sparseness, and several important issues such as data aggregation, redundancy. These are all actually data issues. You know better than me. But these are actually pattern analysis for prediction of data-driven modeling, because I'm talking about threat modeling. And if you are going for threat modeling kind of research, you really have to have a threat-specific data. And those threat-specific data you may have to augment. Why? Because you may not get real-time data because of privacy issue, because of political issues. You may not really be able to access the real-time data, So these are actually challenging aspects of the research I'm going to present finally. So what happens, an effective cybersecurity expert system modeling is one key desire, and it is a potential research direction in cybersecurity, that you come up with a expert system, you model, but for cybersecurity, of course, based on real-time attack vector and your insightful knowledge from the vector. And it is a lightweight rule-based inference engine, if you can, that allows to reason for intelligent cybersecurity services. Deeper understanding and designing an effective rule-based system is also an issue. But the last but not the least is very important is this one, that we come up with a effective cybersecurity framework based on a particular context of business, a particular domain, a particular nature of attack. And that research may lead to something very, very useful, intelligent cyber defense. Intelligent cyber defense is today what we are looking for. And the future will be intelligent cyber defense. Let me just take you to this picture. This is something very, very important. Now, this is actually a kind of AI framework and an attack surface. You can see here layers. The top layer, this is actually the generation of data. This is actually data source. So what happens from this data source? You have unstructured data, you have structured and unstructured. This is a data conditioning. So this is one primary target. Today's primary target of cyber attack is the data. And then this data conditioning ultimately generates information for algorithms to work. And then from algorithms, you develop certain knowledge that comes into the next layer. You have some interaction with these different spectrums. It's human, machine teaming, and ultimately users. These are actually mission critical places where you're having. But this framework talks about where you can have attack. The first attack is a data. The second attack is algorithm, because if I can poison, this particular data we call data poisoning. This is a very interesting terminology today, and everyone is using in the cybersecurity modern approach. Data poisoning means I inject some data in such a way that you are actually using machine learning. Ultimately, what is happening, you're training your algorithm based on data. But if I can poison data and your algorithm performs on that poison data, an ultimate decision is poisoned. So if I can poison your data, I actually attack you, a high attack that you may not be able to even realize that your system is actually under threat. And it is performing based on the decision of the data poisoned by the authority. So particularly data poisoning, I will say that it is going to be one of the key concerns of the coming time. And this is one reason why I'm actually showing you this picture. So on the bottom line, you can see here explainable AI, then metrics and bias assessment, verification. This is actually robust AI we are talking about, but still then, what I mean by robust AI is that system runs whatever happens. Your system can sustain the attack and the system can continue. So, but you can understand the attack surface is exactly what you see today. I'm presenting this picture. Every system is going to have this kind of actually data to decision. And if I can inject some data and poison your data, and I can actually poison your decision. Yeah, as simple as that. Talking from this, I will just show you that what are these attack vectors here. You can see here, this particular 4 types of attack. I mentioned data poisoning, then tempering of category, because once the data is poisoned, your model is automatically tempered, and there is a backdoor and reverse engineering. So this 4 type of attack actually is commonly based on actually due to machine learning and artificial intelligence. But you see, classic cybersecurity attack mainly aim to steal data and disrupt the system. Absolutely. Once it is disrupted, that is what the expected outcome is. I'm almost at the end of my talk, so the last end I'm going to show you. Okay, and you see what happens in the data poisoning as a result. I said that the attackers, they basically crafted flawed data ultimately, and 88% of erroneous data generally found that in AI system, for example, drug dose, machine is controlling the drug. Attacker could generate a 75% change in the doses of half of the patient using the system. This is one of the research reference, but it is very, very vulnerable. You can see it is not, if it happens, your entire system has to be shut down, because this is going to kill many innocent patients. Yeah, data poisoning is a very dangerous thing. All right, so there are some of the conferences I just don't want to take you in, because these are actually focused cybersecurity conferences, and especially first year for Elsevier and also IEEE. Well, the key concern, the directions is this. I will be very brief here. You already understood the direction, but the malware exploiting, zero-day vulnerability, assisted intelligence, augmented intelligence, autonomous intelligence. We basically have 3 specific intelligence, and the understanding is to create this is my system has become more intelligent than me, of course, because we definitely don't know what we are experiencing. Yeah, I tried to actually go on to not onto the screen now, so I have a better control now. All right, so this is actually the directions I did not want to miss. IT asset inventory is something very, very important here. Second is threat exposure understanding, because you try to actually develop a system which can generate, fake attack vectors. Try to understand that. Control effectiveness development, understand the impact of various security tools. Security study itself is a very important aspect in the research. And I'm almost at the end. All right, so breach prediction, that's very important. And incident response. Well, this is, I want to add. Why? Because what happens, incident response is still manual in many countries. In most countries, it is manual, because incident response detection automatic. It's a very challenging chapter. And we know that many of the incidents we don't report. So is there any way we can come up with an AI-powered system that can provide improved context for prioritization and response to security alerts? This is very important in order to understand the threat patterns. Every country has a very specific threat patterns. And understandingly, if we don't do research, we cannot identify the threat patterns. Yeah, so last but not the least, almost at the end, I'll just talk about the application for cyber defense. Here you can see some of the attack patterns. One is that predictive analytics. You are monitoring and anticipating a threat, and you have a focused defense. This is actually defense stage, focused defense. You may have clustering and classification. Automatically, you are inferring or prioritizing vulnerability. It is called deflect attack. Attack deflection, why? Because certain probability you are changing, you're shifting. The third aspect is information extraction, handle big data to detect and characterize attack. These are all actually research issues. ID new attacks, you are identifying new attacks. And last but not the least is that stop attacks. And you may have recommended system and natural language processing based to enact solutions. Why? Because this is actually recovered. Mission fight through, that means you are actually developing a robust, intelligent cyber defense. But in the process, you have different analytics at different stage. You're trying to know the target, enable the attack process. These are actually offense stage, and this is a defense stage. You can understand that offense stage is used by actually attackers, and defense stage is used by you. And in between users, networks, and systems, they are interacting. So this is actually where we are actually bringing the researchers, the practitioners, and the ultimate, players together. Yeah, I'm almost finishing at the end. So typical research question is, what cyber attack vector? This is something very, very interesting. What cyber attack vector have been used to attack the critical infrastructure? This is an example I'm showing you. I will just take 2 minutes. This cyber attack vector, if you can understand, what is your target? You are actually, how can you get it? You need a database containing all incident discovered. Create a virtual display. You have a visual display of the data. Create a risk assessment and mitigation plan based on the data. And after that, what you do is you have a process flow in between. You have a cyber attack catalog, then data visualization, data analysis, and risk priority and mitigation plan. And with this, I'll just show you that how you develop the visualization of this. You are using certain methodology. Of course, you collect, catalog collected cyber attack across critical infrastructure. You put them, all critical infrastructure you see. Every attack, phishing, portable device, main attack, ransomware, Trojan horse, and date of incident. You are categorizing all attacks. That's very, very important, that you categorize all the attack patterns. And after that, you basically have this analysis of patterns. You are trying to categorize all the attack patterns, which particular infrastructure, how frequent, and what are those main attacks. Because you are actually doing a research for a specific vertical. That's very important to understand. And finally, you have a visualization like this. And, talking from this point, I'll be very brief here because I'm done almost. And prospects, what you have is collaboration opportunities. That's one of the prospects. Why? Because policymakers, technical community, key corporate representatives, we have to work together. Why? Because otherwise you don't have data, you cannot develop intelligent cyber defense. You have to investigate, you have to prevent and mitigate potential malicious use of AI and related technology. That means this is the first prospect. Second prospect, you develop an information sharing protocol. Why? Because certain protocol needs to be ensured your privacy, because it's a cyber attack vectors, and you have to have a privacy to ensure that your business is not interrupted. Otherwise, you don't get data. So this is a sharing protocol that actually based on every country has its own. So you have to have a cyber security relevant data. And then this is the second process. Third is the solve the challenge. Why? Because you are enforcing personal data protection. You're trying to solve a particular problem. So this is actually a huge prospect. And capacity building is the biggest prospect. Why? Because we need so many professionals with the right skill, right mindset to work for the cybersecurity. And in terms of challenge, as you will see that basically challenge lies with the World is witnessing continuous coordinated cyber attack. Preparedness is still emerging. We have serious, we need to develop understanding on AI and AI focused training, because this is very important that cyber tribunal, these people needs complete orientation on how to deal with intelligent cyber crimes. That's and it is based on AI, of course. So they have to have a training on that. And with this, I just thank you very much for your, some of the references I look at it, many things, these are actually happening in the world. And finally, thank you for your patience hearing. But I want to finish this talk with a quotation that as cybersecurity is evolving, we have to evolve as well. So with this, I stop the sharing and thank you so much. I'm back to the back to our host, and if there is any specific questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your talk. Any questions from the audience? Thank you so very much for your talk, sir. We'll move ahead to the next.
Thank you all.
We'll move ahead to the next paper, paper ID 8, an optimized model for malware detection using machine learning algorithms, and will be presented by Ms. Sakshi Kaur. Ms. Sakshi, can we have your screen?
Yes, ma'am, just a minute.
I'm joining in another meeting, so I wish you very, very good luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Would again request all the authors to stick to the timeline of 5 minutes and only focus on the research areas.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are here to present our paper, an optimized model for malware detection using machine learning. Now, Shivani will start the presentation.
Now, here is the problem introduction. Over the decade, many researchers have been done, and according to those researchers, there has been an exponential rise in the malware. Malware is basically a software which is designed with an intent to cause damage to a computer system. These malwares result in a huge financial loss to various organizations and can cause significant damage. Hence, it is very important to detect any malicious content in our file. Next slide. Now here is the objective of our paper. A malware detection system has the main objective wherever we have to scan and identify the presence of any kind of malicious content, and we have to report it immediately. And it will help the customer to be aware about the presence of any kind of harmful files which are containing the malicious content. So the main objective of our paper is to scan the file provided and detect if it contains any kind of malicious content. Now Sakshi will tell about the proposed methods.
Now coming to the proposed method. There were various steps that were followed during the execution process. The first step, firstly, a model for the classification is selected based on the data collection and interpretation. There are various models that have been used, such as gradient boosting, decision tree, adder boost, and I'll explain them further in the slide. Firstly, coming to gradient boosting. The main benefit of using the gradient boosting model is its accuracy as well as the prediction speed, even if the data is complex. A prediction model is constructed that compensates for all the shortcomings of the previous model. Now coming to the decision tree. This model actually comes under supervised learning. The algorithm starts from the root node of the tree. It compares the value of the root attribute with the attribute which is a real data set, and it is based on comparisons, and it follows the branch and jump to the next node. Now coming to the next algorithm, which is the adder boost. The name adder boost is actually the short form for adaptive boosting. The speciality of this model is the ability to boost the performance as well as it provides optimization. It can be used for classification. Now coming to the next algorithm, which is random forest. Random forest model is actually used for training of decision trees from a collection of training data. It is also used for better prediction and performance and uses results of more better than an algorithm for classification. Now coming to the step 2, the last and the final step, which is the step 2. In this step, we actually select our file which needs to be tested, and the results are displayed indicating whether the file contains malicious content or not. Now I'll be explaining the system architecture. Firstly, the training and the testing of the model that is to be used is done. For this, a dataset is used. The feature selection and transformation for the dataset gets done. Multiple models are applied onto the dataset, and the model which has the maximum accuracy gets chosen, and the respective classifier for that is generated, and this classifier is thus loaded into the malware test model. After this, the user actually provides an input file for which the malware detection is to be done from the user interface. Then the user interface actually calls the malware test, where the extraction of the data from the file is done and different sections as well as headers are predicted. Then, using the model, the final classification result gets generated, which states that file is either legitimate or malicious. Now, Shivani will continue with the flowchart.
Now here we can see a flowchart. Now here we can see a flowchart that will give us a better idea of what is going on and understand the process that are taking place. Firstly, dataset is collected from the various different sources like the Kaggle dataset, Microsoft dataset, etc. After that, we are starting on the training module in order to remove the non-informative and redundant predictors. Then we have the feature selection where the importance of each feature of dataset is predicted. In the next step, a training model is selected based on the accuracy of different models that we are used in our project. And the percentage of splitting model is 80% for the training and 20% for the testing. Afterward, the classifier for the selected model is generated, which is used in the malware test module. Then the prediction that the file is malicious or the legitimate is done and the result is displayed. Next slide, please. Now here is the result and the conclusion. While implementing the train module, we applied some multiple algorithms on the dataset in order to achieve the best possible accuracy. Here are the algorithms which we were used: the decision tree, random forest, ADA boost, gradient boosting, and the GNB. Here are some accuracies. So according to the result achieved that was shown in the table, it can be determined that the random forest provide the best accuracy on the dataset, that is 99.48. Hence, the classifier for the random forest algorithm is generated. This shows that the accuracy achieved for our system is about 99%, which is a good accuracy in order to detect the malware in our files. Now, here are some references that we used in our project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions from the session chair or the audience? Ms. Sakshi, you can unshare your screen. Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have someone from paper ID 009? 009. So we'll move ahead to paper ID 11, titled as Road Pothole Detection Mechanism Using Mobile Sensors, and will be presented by Mr. Harsh Agarwal.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm sharing my screen.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yes. Here I welcome you all. In this research paper, I am explaining the road portal detection mechanism using mobile sensors, in which the author are myself, Aditya Gupta, Aryan Sharma, and Prabhas Singh. The problem strand that we have followed in it is like by the Ministry of the Road and by the India determined that due to the potholes and the malfunction of the road, there's a too many deaths and the injuries happen to the pupils in the consecutive years. So we are thinking to calculate the where there are potholes in the road or not. To inspect this manually, it is very taking time and dealing process. So we are using the mobile sensor to identify at what place there's a potholes or not, so that we can able to solve this. The proposed solution we are using, in it we are using the accelerometer and gyroscope sensors that are present in the smartphone. Currently everyone is the smartphone, so we are able to gather the data and able to find the potholes on the road or not. Okay, we are using the real-time database as using the Firebase to store the connection between the mobile and the pothole to find the accelerometer and gyroscope reading. and or by maintaining the location, we are storing the latitude and longitude of that position in the database. So the process we are using, firstly we collect that data using the mobile sensor, then we pre-processing the data and reduce the noises and the error data in it, and maintain perform the data in a systematic way. Then build a machine learning model which will help us to find the best way, the at which point and at which corresponding reading there is a pothole and not. And finally we develop a mobile application by which the end user can able to find at the road they are moving at which place there is pothole or not, and by which the further the PWD department, the road ministry department, which are responsible for the road maintenance, will able to correct it. Okay, the algorithm we use in it like random forest, logistic regression, support vector machines, KNN, and grant boosting. We're using different algorithm as to identify which algorithm will work better in this situation. The workflow of this process, like first we collect the data, then we consider the reading of the accelerometer and gyroscope reading, and maintain the potholes according to that. Then we send to the database and engineering that database by pre-processing it, and classify that at which position there is a pothole or not. After that, the user app that we have made by which we have to identify the pothole and able to find the actual road conditions by that. There is some results like confusion by logistic reaction. There is a truly 266, and by random forest there is a false and predictive false is also 273. After that, the GX boost in it is like a true falsely and truly false is 271, and KNN is 264 in SVM. And finally, there's the comparison between the all the five algorithms that we are using in it: random forest, gradient boosting, KNN model, SVC, and logistic regression. We find that gradient forest and gradient boosting algorithm will work mostly fine, and the best performance is given by SG boost and the random forest algorithm. So we use in this app. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions from the session chair or the audience?
Yeah, one question from my side is that the trajectory which is on the road, how you can define that this is trajectory or bending of the road having some stones in the left or right side?
So we are maintaining like the mobile sensor. If the sensor is getting any trajectory, like firstly we collect the data as by manually we move to the road and find that at which position there is a pothole, and maintain the trajectory like at which reading the accelerometer and gyroscope will hike and decides. So we find that point, and by that we make a ML model.
Let's suppose there is a backend server or just mobile device complete all
There
the.
is a backend server that we are using as to maintain the data.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Harsh.
Thank you.
We'll now move ahead to the next paper, ID 12, titled as Identifying Microscopic Augmented Images Using Pre-trained Deep Convolution Neural Networks, and will be presented by Dr. Raj Gaurang-Tiwari. Over to you, sir.
Yes, ma'am, I am sharing the screen. Kindly let me know whether I am audible or not. Ma'am, please kindly let me know whether I am audible.
Yes, you are, sir.
Okay.
And we can see your screen too.
Just a minute, ma'am. So, very good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Raj Gaurang-Tiwari, and I'm just going to present here my research work entitled Identifying Microscopic Augmented Images Using Pre-trained Deep Convolutional Neural Network. In this talk, I am just going to cover the abstract, the introductory information, the objective of this work, related studies, the methodologies, data set used, results, its analysis, and conclusion. So if we talk about if we talk about the deep learning, it is gaining vast acceptance in the field of you can say medical science. And in this particular work, what I have tried to do, that is I have just tried to apply the different machine learning approaches as well as the deep learning approaches just to classify the you can say nucleus and micronucleus from the microscopic images. So as an introductory information, we can we all know that the artificial intelligence is the you can say superset of machine learning, and machine learning is the superset of deep learning. And if we talk about the artificial intelligence, which is the engineering which makes the intelligent machines. And if we talk about you can say, suppose just a minute, there is, yes, if you talk about you can say, if you talk about the machine learning, you can say that is ability to learn without being explicitly programmed, and the deep learning that is based on the deep neural network. So in the machine learning, generally what happens, the feature extraction is manual, and after that the classification can be performed. But if we talk about the deep learning here, the classification as well as the feature extraction, that is not, you can say, that is automatic, and that is the main advantage of deep learning. So if we talk about the convolutional neural network, generally known as the CNNs, are different designs of the CNN have been developed in the past few years, and few are the ResNet 50, GoogleNet, you can say Inception, different versions, that is the Inception Net V1, V2, V3, as well as ResNet, DenseNet. So different versions have been created for the different designs have been created for the convolutional neural network. In this paper, we also have used the transfer learning. And if we talk about the transfer learning, basically that focuses on storing knowledge gained from addressing one problem and just applying it to some related or different problem. So generally what happens here, the model is trained for one problem, and the same model with some modification can be used on the different scenarios. So if we talk about the overall objective of this work, that is what I have done in this work, that is how to recognize the nucleus and micronucleus from the microscope images. So that was the overall purpose. And for this particular scenario, which algorithm we have, which you can say gives the better result, that is the overall task. So if you talk about the different work which have been done in this particular field, just for example, you can say H.H. Su, he used the color layer signature analysis to identify the cells and mitotic imperfections of micronuclei. Similarly, if you talk about you can say Jung and others, they use the mask RCNN approach for the same purpose. So now I am just moving towards my work. In this particular work, I have just used the data set generated by the Tariq Al-Afif, and that particular data set is available on the IEEE data port. And this particular data set contains 148 nucleus images and 158 micronucleus images. As we can simply consider the quantity of these images that would not be sufficient for training a particular model accurately. That's why we use the data augmentation approaches like rotation, flipping, zooming to enhance the volume of data set and that you can say that enhanced data set can be used for improving the you can say model accuracy. So the overall methodology which we have used, we have applied so many of machine learning approaches. Actually, from where I started just applying the machine learning approaches on the data set, and I just stopped wherever I am getting the better results, I am getting the satisfactory result. So I applied the decision tree, SVM, quadratic discriminant analysis, k-neighbors, AdaBoost, Gaussian naive Bayes, logistic regression, random forest, extra trees, histogram gradient boosting, approaches, that these are the machine learning approaches. And whenever I was not satisfied with these particular machine learning approaches, I just started using the deep learning approaches. I worked with the CNN as well as the Inception-net version 2. And I will just show you that the Inception-net version 2 that just gives the satisfactory result. For measuring the performance, whenever I am saying whether the result is satisfactory or not. So how to measure the performance? We use different matrices like accuracy, precision, recall, F1 score, Matthew coefficient, kappa coefficient. So all these matrices have been used in our work. This is the overall flow of our work. Basically, the ImageNet pre-trained model has been used, and I have just tuned that particular pre-trained model by the selected data set, and the you can say the different accuracy, the different performance criteria have been evaluated. Now I am just moving towards the result. The first result, that is the machine learning approaches. Now I had told you very clearly that as the given data set has very less number of nuclei and micronucleus images, so we just augmented that also. So I am just going to show you the result on the base data set as well as the augmented data set. So this here the first table gives you the result of you can say of different machine learning on the base data set, while the second table gives you the result of different machine learning algorithms on the augmented data set. So here you can see the different algorithm, that is the decision tree, support vector machine, quadratic determinant analysis, KNN, AdaBoost, GNN, linear regression, random forest, extra tree, histogram, gradient boosting. All these different machine learning approaches have been used, and these are basically what the different you can say different performance criteria like accuracy, precision, recall, F1 score, Matthews coefficient, kappa statics. So now if we focus on this particular table, we can simply see that random forest and extra tree are the algorithms which are giving some you can say approximately 78% accuracy is there. So, and below that the HGB algorithm is there. And if we talk about the augmented data set also, then we can also see that the random forest as well as the, you can say, extra tease algorithms are giving us approximately 71% accuracy and the similar appreciation and recall. So this was the result of machine learning approaches. Now I am moving towards the deep learning approaches. So first I applied the CNN on the base data set, and we can simply see the results there. So here we can simply see that average training as well as average validation accuracy. Whenever I am taking the average of this, so approx 96% and 66% accuracy we are achieving. Validation and training and validation accuracy are being achieved by the CNN on the base data set. But whenever the CNN is applied on the augmented data set, we can also see that the average accuracy of our training accuracy is approximately 98%, and average validation accuracy is approximately 86%. So up to some extent, the accuracy has been increased whenever we are just training the model with a large volume of image set. Now, if we talk about the, we also applied the Inception-net v2 also. So whenever we applied the Inception-net v2 on the base data set, this is the result, and we can just simply see that average accuracy, training accuracy is approximately 99%, and average validation accuracy is approximately 77%. And again, if we apply the Inception-net v2 on the augmented data set, so now we are getting you can say something satisfactory result, that is 99.8% training accuracy and approximately 97% validation accuracy is achieved. So I just stopped here because I think that now I am just getting some satisfactory result, and if I would not have been find the satisfactory result, then I would have applied other deep learning approaches as well, as you can say that is the VGG 16 and DenseNet and so on. So other deep learning approaches would have been applied, but here I am getting some satisfactory result. That's why I stopped here. Now we can see whatever I have shown.
Did you conclude?
Just I'm concluding within 1 minute. So ultimately, whatever I have shown you in the tabular format, this is the basically result analysis, the different comparisons. So you can simply see that augmented inception ResNet v2 is giving you the highest training accuracy, highest validation accuracy, as well as highest recall, highest precision, highest area under curve, all the parameters. The augmented inception ResNet v2 is giving you the better results. So now I am concluding. Basically, the overall purpose of this particular paper was just to apply the transfer learning and deep learning in the recognition of nucleus and micronucleus, nucleus and micronucleus. And our test reveals that the pre-trained model outperforms traditional machine learning approaches. And among the pre-trained models, the Inception ResNet v2 offers approx 99% training accuracy and approx 97% validation accuracy, which may be considered as satisfactory. These are some basically references which I have used in this paper. So thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Any questions from the session chair or the audience? Thank you, Dr. Rajvaram Tiwari.
Okay, thank you.
We'll move ahead to the next paper, ID 79, a survey on cybersecurity threats. It will be presented by Mr. Gulshan Badolia.
Yes, okay. I'm presenting my screen.
Yes, sir. We can see your screen, sir.
Firstly, good afternoon to all of you. This is Gulshan, and I'm presenting a review paper, which is titled A Survey on Cybersecurity Threats. So, firstly, a formal introduction, as we all know about cyber attacks, it's some sort of outrageous action that exploit our computer system, computer network, personal devices, and information system. And attacker can be either cyber attack are most common cyber just a piece of code with a harmful content, and second phishing are just these are the emails which are comes from the untrusted parties. Third one is a password attack. Password attacks is when someone tries to denial of denial of access. These are some type of attack. And the last one, which is man in the middle. Sometime in the banking process, when attacker gain access in the middle, this is where it acts. It will gain access in your credential and can steal your data, or this is a report on top 10 attacks which occur in 2018. We can clearly see there is 34%, which is malware, basically just a piece of code, and types of attacks. So some of the main highlights, and they took 78 studies for detail analysis. Also, the data of these study are systematically utilized application of the system. The result of that study shows the current security system that is present to preserve the privacy are not good, but not enough. Also show achieve the four component system will do monitoring on the real-time basis.
Audio is cracking very much.
Mr. Gulshan, I would request you to move to a better network area because it's we are not able to hear you properly since a while.
Okay, 1 second. 1 second. Is now is clear?
Not really, but you can go ahead if there is not much to do, and would request you to conclude soon. Mr. Gulshan, you can go ahead.
Okay. So third one, the impact the whole system is being analyzed, and last is mitigation, which they proposed. Of various technology in which I reviewed, there are main topic and threads, and I picked their platform and their solution based and their problem and the references. And according to the attacks, I categorize them according to the paper I revision of this review. The present literature review gives a contribution in cybersecurity threats and data analysis to solve. It is concluded that development of secure system is tending to become more expertise oriented than problem centered. The integration of quantitative and scientific method or integration of study of cyber methodology will increase the understanding of the subject. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Any questions from the session chair?
Yeah,
or the
one
audience?
question from my side is that you have made the survey and analysis of different categories of cyber threats, but you have not included disaster recovery and business continuity, because these two terms are broadly associated with cyber security. Then it is my suggestion for you to include this in next version of your paper.
Yes, sir, definitely. Also, disaster recovery. I will add this in the further versions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Mr. Gulshan. Moving ahead to the next paper, ID 22, titled as Comparison of Power Consumption of Modern SLEM Methods on Various Data Sets. It will be presented by Mr. Omir Farooq.
I am here, it's Ömer. I will share my screen.
Sure, sir. We can see your screen, sir.
Okay, it's Ömer. I am graduate student at Ankara University, and I will present our work titled Comparison of Power Consumption of Modern SLAM Methods on Various Data Sets. Within the scope of the presentation, I will make a short explanation on the subject. Afterwards, I will mention related studies, methods, and results. Within the scope of the study, we were interested in visual SLAM, and we used methods and data sets available in open sources. Tools, we examined the effects of DSO, LDSO, and ORB-SLAM2 visual SLAM methods on power consumption. We aimed that this will give researchers an idea about hardware constraints in autonomous system design. Autonomous movement can be defined as performing given tasks with or without limited user intervention. The state-of-the-art method of positioning and mapping is emerging as SLAM. It has difficulties due to the chicken egg problem. Localization, if the robot has a perfect prior knowledge of the environment, the robot's position can be calculated relatively easily. Or on the contrary, if the robot's position is known perfectly, a model of its environment can be created. Within the scope of SLAM problem, the robot with sensors on it does not have prior knowledge of its environment. Probabilistic methods are used to solve the SLAM problem since the location of the robot and the map of the environment are created simultaneously. Therefore, a perfect information cannot be obtained. Sorry. There are many. I'm sorry. Visual SLAM algorithms in literature are classified according to the methods they use and their map densities. They are classified as sparse or dense according to their map density. It is also classified as direct or feature-based in terms of its methods. Also, there are many data sets in the literature. These data sets prepared in the laboratory can consist of real images of indoor and outdoor environment, as well as synthetic images like ICL-NIM datasets. In our study, we used DSO, LDSO, and ORB-SLAM2 methods, which are modern SLAM systems. We also used the ICL-NIM, Kitty, UROC, and Tumono datasets. We obtained the power consumption from the TegraStats or software interface of NVIDIA Jetson TX1 hardware. DSO is an odometry method and doesn't have loop closure capability. LDSO is a SLAM method created by adding loop closure capability to the DSO methods. And also ORB-SLAM2 is a feature-based SLAM method. Others are direct methods. ICL-NIM is a synthetic dataset. UROC is indoor dataset. Kitty is outdoor dataset. Tumono has fisheye camera image. We use NVIDIA Jetson TX1 hardware. As metrics, we use CPU load, GPU power consumption, and total power consumption parameters. Unlocking CPU load, especially on non-textured images, like ICL-NIM, the CPU load was higher in ORB-SLAM2. However, the ORB-SLAM2 CPU load was less with textured images, such as the Kitty dataset. In addition, the CPU load created by the LDSO method was higher than the DSO method.
I would request you to please conclude.
Okay, when total power consumption is compared, we have seen that the DSO method is the method that causes the most power consumption. As such, we noticed that the CPU load and the total power consumption behave differently from each other. The DSO method, which caused the lowest CPU load in almost all datasets, caused the most power consumption. We investigated the reason for this. We checked the GPU power consumption data from the TegraStats software interface, and we found that the DSO method is the most challenging method in terms of GPU power consumption. To summarize, we used NVIDIA hardware with ARM processor. We compared direct and feature-based methods, and we examined the effects of the methods on power consumption. As I said earlier, when comparing CPUs and total power consumption, we noticed a mismatch between them. You can see it more clearly on the table. When we examined the GPU power consumption, we realized that the most challenging method on all datasets is DSO. When we look at the GPU power consumption behaviors of the methods over time, we can see that the difference is increasing. When we examined the root cause, we saw that the image frequencies used by the methods for the keyframe are different. For DSO, DSO for between 5 and 7 images per second. For LDSO, between 5 and 10 images. For OrbSlam, we saw that one frame was used as a keyframe in 20 frames. In this way, we found that the difference between CPU load and total power consumption is due to GPU load. As a result, we found that the LDSO method is the most challenging method in terms of total power consumption. However, we determined that the DSO method is challenging in large environments, but suitable for untextured environments such as ICLMI. We determined that the OrbSlam 2 method is better than DSO and LDSO in terms of CPU load and power consumption in textured environments. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramesh. Any questions from the session chair or the audience?
One question for him is that is digital image processing is integrated this SLAM method, or just SLAM is used to identify the vehicle in map?
Sorry, I couldn't take the sound effectively. Can you repeat again?
The question is that the image feature extraction is applied with SLAM, or just SLAM method is used to identify the vehicle in map?
Sir, is the question clear to you?
No, I cannot understand exactly, I think.
Dr. Vimal, can you please repeat?
Yeah, I am asking that the image of vehicle is extracted through the sensor or anything else, then this SLAM method calculates the position of vehicle in map, or any image processing application is applied with this SLAM method.
If I understand truly, we used the data set from open source, and the SLAM methods have used this image and use this image for calculating the localization and mapping. These data sets are created in laboratories, not and used offline, I think, if I understand truly.
Okay, thank you, sir. So we may proceed further.
Thank you so much, sir. You can unshare your screen now. The next paper ID is 14. It's titled as an hybrid approach to ensure data integrity on outsourced data using symmetric key cryptography. It will be presented by Mr. Ritin Bhel. Mr. Ritin.
Yeah.
We can see your screen, sir.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to present my paper on hybrid approach to ensure data integrity on also data using symmetric key cryptography. The paper title is 14. Okay. Now, what it's trying to cover is introduction, the motivation part, what are the literature survey, how we can come up with the literature previous part, and the new approach, what were the approach we have taken in the result part. But before starting something, the most important point is why we have chosen the data outsourcing. Nowadays, we have seen that most of the things, even the education line, medical line, are going towards the data outsourcing, that they are taking the help of the service of the cloud. And the cloud is also helping out in many kinds of the services. It can act as a service, software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. And sometimes we can take as a storage as a service. The major advantage of taking this by the client is they get the freedom or the burden of the maintenance part. So the cloud is taking care of everything. But the most important point that comes to the client is the security. In the security, we have many points. So the first point that I've covered in this paper is the data integrity. That is how a client can ensure that whether the data on the cloud, which the company or the organization has stored, is not been altered or modified by unauthorized user. So since the data owner shares the data on the cloud provider, there is an important need to ensure the data integrity, to check that no modification is performed on it by an unauthorized user. Basically, this paper tries to come up with using a hybrid approach. We have taken the previous approach also, and from the hybrid approach to the symmetric cryptography. But this is something what does it look like an architecture on the cloud services. Basically, it's like a third-party auditing. And auditing is something as a posterior mechanism to check the data integrity. And it is a tie-up between the client and the cloud service, that one and what to happen at the third-party auditing, or the user can do it. In traditional way, the first method was a trivial one. The auditing part was when the users start downloading the data from the cloud itself and do the auditing process. But it was taking too much time. So both the cloud service and the user come up with a common point is, okay, let us have something, a third party, and we both can rely on this thing. So this overall work goes on, like user load the data on the cloud, and user give the authentication keys to the authenticated users. And inside that also the third party auditor is present who checks the data regularly and give the auditing report to the user. If they find out something that had been changed or something, it can report to the error. How does we can ensure that whether it has been happening or not? So the cloud sometimes says it, okay, if it is happening beyond my limit, I'm not responsible. Why we get this motivation is because when we see in the latest part is throughout the years, there have been many cloud services outages. Okay, some of them are getting stealing patents, medical data to suffer physician services, Gmail mass deletion, and Amazon S3 takedown. So what we come up with is the conventional integrated verification method. For example, hash function and Mac are able to solve some of the problem, but the major problem was on the cloud computing, the lack of the local copy. So what they come up with the trivial approach is, okay, the same thing. The data owners will download whole the data from the service and check again and again. But the main point where the client has started is, I need to save my time, but exactly ending it up in ensuring the data has been saved and giving more time for that. The trivial approaches are time consuming for verifying the data because the user or the client has to download it on its own server. But it has impractical when the data is very, very large. So the more convenient ways to integrate the cryptography, where we can use the encryption and the decryption methods while transmitting the data so that the data doesn't get altered by the malicious system. So we can have one step of mechanism to ensure that while we are uploading the data on the cloud, it can be ensured that yes, we have some kind of this thing ensured by using different methods. So what are the servers done on the previous paper?
We request you to come to the key research area.
Okay, so the proposed method was like we have divided into two processes of encryption and decryption. We have used the cloud service, Firebase service as a cloud storage as a service. So the input file is a retext file. It's been broken into two parts. Encrypt using algorithm, and it's been using two different algorithms, merge the file and upload the file in the cloud. Then on the decryption process, we have reversed the process, and we have seen that from if we take two different kind of algorithm and a hybrid approach is giving me the best results as compared to the previous one. So methodology was breaking out this thing. We propose a solution to hybrid algorithms. So first one is AES, RSA, and DS. So AES and RDS, if I say, is a block cipher method and it's a private key symmetric, and RSA is public. So this is the analysis. But if I take in a hybrid approach, I get the very kind of the performance is very good. The utilization is good. So what we can conclude from this thing, if I conclude from taking or the two different approaches simultaneously to make a combined one, we get a better result. But still the key distribution process of taking two different approaches are in a manageable area. So till now we have implemented this thing, and for this we have find out the better results. And this was there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Any questions from the session chair or the audience?
One question from my side is that basically this work is focusing the data confidentiality, not the integrity. And I would like to refer you to go with blockchain technology to enhance the integrity of the data which is transmitted from service provider to the tenant. And this is definitely, sir. Yeah, this is the
I will go with the blockchain. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for a valuable time, sir. Thank you for a valuable. Thank you. Thank you.
Moving ahead to the next paper, ID 60, titled as Performance of Voice-Based Virtual Assistants in Indian Higher Education Context, presented by Ms. Silki Sharma. Ma'am, can we have you?
Yes, surely. Thank you so much. I'm sharing the screen.
Yes, ma'am. You can see your screen, ma'am.
Is it? Oh, okay. All right. So the title of my paper is Comparison of Voice-Based Virtual Assistants Fostering Indian Higher Education, a Technical Perspective. This paper is done as a part of my PhD, which I'm doing under the kind guidance of Professor Dr. Gurinder Singh, sir. So here we are trying to understand the role of one artificial intelligence tool, that is a virtual assistant, and more specifically voice assistants, which is a kind of technology to fulfill the request received by the users who are giving the inputs in the form of voice only. And interestingly, the voice assistants, this is the technology which has been most quickly adopted in US if we compare as compared to the other technologies of the modern world. And by 2024, it has been estimated that the number of digital voice assistants that are going to be used by the population will reach to 8.4 billion. And it is having a number of applications in our daily tasks, like controlling home appliances, booking an appointment with your doctor, knowing spellings, learning new recipes, playing music, or ordering something online. I'm sure each one of us has used voice assistants in some or other way while doing the Google search. So they have also applications in educational processes like admission, orientation, hostel room allocation, during the mentoring process, and information desk, wherein we can minimize the human bias and ensure the objectivity through the listed various benefits which they promise: real-time customized learning, immersive classroom experience, encourage collaborative learning, and it can also help in organizing the quizzes and games in the automated mode these days, and various universities in the Western world are implementing the same in their educational system. Also, it can act as a knowledge hub, helpful in doing the students' personality profiling, assessing the performance of the students if we have a large classroom, so quite useful, and reduce the task for the faculty members also. Also, it can act as a good reminder tool and explore the routine information. So these are some of the applications of voice assistants in higher education. So after doing an
I would
extensive
request you to
literature,
skip to your research.
yeah. So I'm coming to the objectives of the study. So after doing extensive literature review, the objectives of the study was to compare the performance of popular voice assistants like Amazon Alexa, Google Assistant, and Microsoft Cortana, wherein all these had been asked the questions related to the process of admission and assessment in higher education. So these three voice assistants were used for the purpose of our study: Google Assistant, Amazon, and Cortana. And the devices used are the Android smartphone, Echo Dot 3 generation, and Windows 10 laptop. In this particular study, 100 students, they were surveyed, out of which 60 were male and 40 were female. And all the respondents were from the age group 18 to 25 years. And out of which 40 were the one who had quite frequently used the voice assistants, and 60 had used non-frequently. And the questions were asked in the English language only. So these were the list of the questions which were related to the admissions. When students aspiring to get admission in the various courses, they make a search and they make use of these voice assistants. And in the category 2, we had a questions, quite simple questions, very easy questions, direct questions, wherein the simple queries by the users related to the exam, how they can prepare, how they can control the anxiety, how to get good marks. So very simple search through the use of voice. The factors that were considered to find out the effectiveness of voice assistants were these 5 factors: that whether the voice assistant was able to understand the voice and language of the user. It could understand the basic meaning of the question, keeping in mind the context in which the user wants to ask the question. Then how many times the assistant asked to repeat the question, whether the voice assistant was able to answer the question, and what was the quality of the answer received. So the observations and the analysis on the results, those have been listed as per the responses received from all the three voice assistants. So if you look at the performance of Amazon Alexa, so it was unable to answer one question from category 1, that is admissions category. And Alexa had, in comparison to other virtual assistants, difficulty in understanding the question and repeatedly responded, "I don't know." There were also quite amusing responses generated by the Alexa for few questions that were asked by the user, and it responded either "I don't know" or "I'm still learning," or even started playing music. And interestingly, the request to repeat the question was done only by Amazon Alexa, and that too for 3 questions in category 1. So somehow it also shows that it is more interactive and tries to clarify from the user. However, the rest of the two voice assistants, no such request was received. And but in spite of asking the question again and again, it was unable to answer, and the vague response was generated. Sorry. So Alexa could give answers only one option or limited. I'm sorry, just a minute. For a few questions, the Alexa was giving the extra information, which was not even asked. For example, if the name of the institute was asked, so it was giving about the location as well. So sometimes not required information was also given by Alexa, and Alexa terminates the conversation after giving answer for one question and unable to build the conversation most of the time. Then looking at the performance of the Google Assistant. So Google Assistant, it excelled in understanding the question correctly in the first attempt, even though different voice modulations were used, and was able to generate the accurate response or near to accurate response for the user. So Google Assistant was able to provide answer to all the questions, be it the simpler question in the second category or the complex question. In terms of the quality of the answer generated as per the user, the answer provided by Google Assistant was good or very good as per the user. It means the quality of the answer generated was quite near to the accurate which user was looking for. And the Google Assistant did not ask to repeat any question and tried to generate the answer up to its best possible understanding and search.
Ma'am, I would request you to conclude.
Yes, please. Looking at the performance of Microsoft Cortana, so its performance was also quite good, but in terms of the quality, the performance was varying from very good to poor as well, as per the users, the responses of the users. So in total, the 3 questions were not answered by it from both the categories, and also users received no request to repeat the question. And Cortana also occasionally generated responses like "I'm sorry, but I can't help with that." So if you look at the last discussions and the future work, so in higher education, if we have to integrate these AI-based voice assistants into the system, so the simpler queries can be taken by the virtual assistants effectively and accurately regarding, let's say, some processes, timelines, and stages which the admission aspirant or the, let's say, to solve the simple queries of examination related processes wherein students have the queries, reducing the administrative task or response time for the users. Anyone possessing Android smartphone or laptop with MS Windows 10 or iOS has access to minimum 1 or 2 virtual assistants. So we all have access to at least 2 virtual assistants, which we can use for our personal use. So there is no challenge for that, at least for the students who are doing the professional studies. So challenge for these voice assistants remain in to understand the context of the user and capability to build and have a human-like conversation. Also, there is another, a lot of data is to be fed in terms, because people have unique volume pitch and style of speaking the same words to ask the question, creating challenge for the virtual assistants in understanding the question. So in the environment, also few sources of noise were present and which would always be present in the real life when the users will be using it. So idea was to create a real life situation. So local players can also come up in Indian market, especially where huge potential is there. They can have an inbuilt option of regional languages also that are being spoken in India, and it can be customized. So voice assistants can benefit the users from various other industries and can be tested for their performance in other sectors and jobs as well. So therefore, an ocean of challenges and opportunities lies ahead for the programmers as well as the users respectively to take forward voice and allied AI technologies in shouldering with and partnering the responsibilities in present demanding environment. These were the references that had been taken. So
Thank you
that's
so
all
much,
from
ma'am.
my side. Thank you.
Any questions from the session chair or the
One
audience?
question from my side is that is this assistant or voice assistant works without data dictionary?
Without data dictionary.
Yeah.
I mean, in which context? I didn't get
that. You are saying the internal technological feasibility in this system is based upon artificial intelligence. Then there is need of some data, and that data can be provided through dictionary. Then my question is that if there is no data dictionary, then how this system can work in real-time environment?
See, for voice assistants to generate the responses and to answer the queries of the students, of course, a huge amount of data has to be fed in terms of the probable questions that are asked by the users and the probable answers or the accurate or near to accurate answers. And also the responses have to be fed in like conversation. For example, when we do online shopping, so immediately a chat box, arrives and it says, "Are you looking for this information?" So if the voice assistant is also not able to understand what the user's query is, so it should be able to generate the other leading questions so that it can understand the context and it can come to the near to accurate answer.
Yeah.
So that work has to be done by the institution definitely regarding the admission process or the examination process. The data has to be fed into that.
Let's suppose that voice is very noisy. Then how signal processing detect and remove the noise in this system?
Yes, that challenge is there, and I think that has to be answered by the engineers and the developers. But if if we look at the present study that has been done, so there, as I shared with you, that a real life situation was created, and there were noises in between. For example, ringing of a doorbell or a telephone, or some child speaking or talking in between to the user, and even then, the voice assistant was clearly able to understand the question of the user and generated the response.
Okay, thank you.
So they are doing quite good in this aspect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you
so much, sir.
Thank you so
We'll
much
move
to the
ahead
organizers.
to the next paper ID 163, Evolution of Wide Area Network from Circuit Switch to Digital Software Defined Networks, and will be presented by Mr. Mohit Saxena.
Thank you. Let me share my screen, please. Just give me a second.
We can see your screen, sir.
Excellent. Honorable Session Chair, professors, and my research scholar colleagues. First of all, I would like to thank you all for this opportunity to present my research paper. My name is Mohit Chandra Saxena. I'm a research scholar from Galgotias University, and presently I hold the position of Chief Technology Officer for one of the leading SD-WAN OEMs in India, Infinity Labs Limited. My research paper title is Evolution of Wide Area Network from Circuit Switch to Digital Software Defined Networks. The paper is segregated into two phases, I would say. The first one talks about the brief history of WAN, where I'm reviewing various of the WAN protocols which got into the industry. And the second part talks about the introduction to SD-WAN and a proposed SD-WAN architecture which would well suit the current needs and will be able to address the challenges of the current WAN. So starting with the history of WAN. So late in 1970s, the WAN started, shaping up with X.25 protocol, which was, very, very slow, but still was very reliable. In 1980s, we saw the POTS shaping up. The POTS is the plain old telephone system, which was able to do a speed of throughput of around 56 kilobits per second, mainly used for circuit switched voice. In 1982, the first public WAN was implemented. And in mid 80s, we had the T1, E1 standards, one European and one American came in, which had the ISDN and the 30B and 1D channel based E1s. Then in the late 80s, that is in 1987, the router giant Cisco ships its first WAN router, and the routers came into existence. In 1990s, frame relay was the protocol of choice for WAN, and in early 90s, we had ATM shaping up with different AALs, application adaptation layers, which did the QoS. Then in 1995, we had an era of hybrid networks where ATM and FR were the protocol of choice. In late 1990s, we had IPsec and GRE VPNs, the virtual private networks, which started growing up in the industry. In 2000s, we had the MPLS, the multi-protocol label switching, which revolutionized the IP network, the bearer network with the security and QoS. In the mid 2000s, we had the cloud services shaping up with the infrastructure as a service and platform as a service coming in picture. And from 2016 to 2020, even 21, we had the segment routing and the SDN based SD-WAN coming up, and the standards were written for segment routing, which were like PSEP, the path computation element protocol, which is an RFC now, and BGPLS, which is border gateway protocol, which is used for link state information, which is again an RFC. SD-WAN became one of the easygoing stuff, which was
Excuse me,
not
sir.
standardized.
Sorry to interrupt you, but we'll request you to please conclude.
I will keep it within the time limit, madam. I'll not exceed. Thank you very much. So the challenges of existing WAN, as we see, we have the IP networks, the MPLS networks. The main challenges which we see is the limited application visibility, the manual change management, the decentralized network manageability, the fragmented security, the suboptimal bandwidth utilization, and no application-based routing, which are addressed by SD-WAN. So what exactly is SD-WAN? When we talk about SDN, we're talking about software-defined network where the intelligence of the network is given to a central software called controller. And the data plane and the control plane are separated. So the data can be flown directly from user to user, while the control and the intelligence stays with the software. And the same concept when applied to wide area networks is called SD-WAN, where we have a single controller which manages various customer premises equipments to manage the traffic flow and advise on the best path to follow. Then the benefits of SD-WAN, when we talk about the main characteristics of SD-WAN, is quick deployment, centralized and user-friendly controller-based management. Then it's transport agnostic. We can use any of these networks, be it MPLS, lease lines, internet, broadband, etc. Automation policies can be automatically created and pushed to all the devices in a single click. And of course, there is a single console for managing the show. Now, this is the second part of the paper, which talks about proposed SD-WAN components and standardizing the SD-WAN solution. So here is a controller which has various of the containerized applications, be it the configuration engine, which takes care of the configuration of all the customer premises equipments, then the authentication service, which authenticates the new CPEs, the analytics engine, which takes care of all the performance matrices, and the crypto engine, which does the cryptography, using the public key infrastructure, the asymmetric cryptography, and the API engine, which is responsible for making northbound interfaces so that the SD-WAN solution can talk to various of the other elements in the ecosystem. At the south end, we have two CPEs. We have the secure IPsec tunnel between the CPEs and a TLS-based secure tunnel for the control plane from the CPEs to the controller. This is the controller architecture which my paper talks about, where each of the components which I mentioned in my previous slide are containerized, and they are coupled with a business engine and a REST API endpoints. There are two DBs which are used. One is the time DB, which is used for catering to the metrics and the performance metrics and the analytics information, while the MySQL or NoSQL DB, which is used for configuration management. And of course, there is an HTTPS based API, which is used by various components to talk to each other. We also, in my paper, also talks about the service chaining architecture, where the general purpose hardware, the x86 Intel based hardware, can be used for deploying SD-WAN, which makes it future proof. And it also talks about the service chaining concept, where we can have one customer premises equipment which can run a Linux kernel and a hypervisor on top, and two different VMs. One does the function of SD-WAN, while the other can be a firewall or a load balancer or any other network function. And this is a patented technology where we are service chaining two VMs in such a way that the management of both the VMs as well as the host OS is available from a single port. Then, of course, my paper talks about extensive API engine, which gives the northbound interfaces so that the SD-WAN solution can be integrated with NMSs, with SMS gateways, with healthcare, Google Assistants, as Dr. Silky's paper spoke about the voice assistants and all those natural language processing can be very well integrated with this. SIEM platforms can be integrated, payment gateways can be integrated, and list goes on and on. These
So
are
please
some of the
conclude.
references. Yeah, I already
Thank you.
concluded, madam. These are the list of references which I used in my paper. And that is all which I had for today. Thank you very much. Any questions for me?
Yeah, one question for you is that,
yes,
what is the drawback of this SD-WAN?
Okay, so drawback in terms of service providers, I can tell you the drawback is that the service providers are losing money, because MPLS and dark fiber has been the most secure and reliable transport mechanisms as of now. However, with SD-WAN, these monopolies of MPLS and the dark fiber is going away. We are using the public network with the AES 256 kind of encryption methods to ensure security of traffic and reliability. Of course, the one drawback from the user side would be that in some of the developing countries like ours, there is still I would say unreliability in terms of public networks. Like if we use broadband or if we use internet connections at our homes and offices, that might go down. The uptime might not be as good as an MPLS network. And of course, the power situations and all are also, catering to such kind of drawbacks towards the user.
And one more thing is that
Yes.
regulatory impacts this or doesn't impact on this?
Not at all, not at all, until SD-WAN is used between two countries, and we are kind of using it for terminating the VoIP calls, the voice calls, and terminating it into the plain old telephone system. If that is not being touched upon, then it is regulatory is very clean. Another thing is like our new IT policy has directed all the cloud providers to host the content within the country. So if that guideline is also followed, there is no regulatory challenges with SD-WAN, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. We'll take up paper ID 432, titled as Integration of Cloud with IoT, Advantages and Research Challenges, and will be presented by Ms. Vishalika.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm sharing the screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Vishalika. Today I'm going to present a review paper titled Integration of Cloud with IoT, Its Advantages and Research Challenges. So the contents to be covered in this presentation are introduction, cloud computing, IoT and its components, related work, cloud IoT framework, advantages of integration, research challenges, and in the end, conclusion. So starting with the introduction part, I just give a brief about this review paper. In this, through the course of this paper, we will be highlighting the advantages and research challenges of integrated cloud IoT paradigm. And also, in addition, a few issues are outlined that the researchers should address in the near future. So coming to the introduction part, cloud computing and IoT, these are two paradigms which have many similar and which has many shared characteristics. These are two recent and dissimilar technologies that are widely used in our daily lives. So talking of IoT, it comprises of small things which have inadequate memory storage and computational ability. However, cloud computing is a vast with indefinite capabilities considering virtual storage and computation power globally. So the drawbacks of IoT, like it has inadequate memory storage and computational ability, and cloud computing has a lot of storage and processing capability. So that's why the integration of cloud with IoT is done. So cloud services are reliant on service providers, which are
Vasalika ma'am, please move to your review work where you have presented the review work.
Okay, sir. Sure. So this is a cloud computing is 5 characteristics. IoT, it is both global and dynamic network infrastructure oriented. These are the major components of IoT. It consists of things or devices, cloud, user interface, gateway, and analytics. This is the related work which I studied. These are the comparative features of cloud and IoT. Depending on the different features, arrangement, constituents, computing capability, storage capacity, big data, role of the internet. Next is our cloud IoT framework. So this consists of sensors, mobile devices, IoT middleware. IoT middleware, it is actually a layer that abstracts the functions and communication capabilities of deployed IoT devices in order to integrate them with other technologies, such as cloud services, global sensor networks, middleware, device profile for web services, Link Smart, and more IoT middleware are available now. These were the cloud IoT integration components, cloud platforms, cloud infrastructure, and IoT middleware. Coming to the advantages of integration, first is your communication. So the two significant characteristics are application and data sharing. Next is your storage resources. IoT allows connection between billion of devices which produce enormous structured, semi-structured or unstructured data, which is called as big data, having the three characteristics that is also known as 3 V's: velocity, volume, and variety. So cloud provides the effective and economical solution to manage this huge amount of data generated by IoT. Next is your computational capabilities. So IoT does not allow processing of complex data as it has limited computing or processing capability. Hence, that data needs to be shifted to devices with high processing capabilities. New abilities, heterogeneity of devices, protocols, and technology. This characterizes IoT, in which features like reliability, security, availability, scalability, efficiency are very difficult to attain. Next,
I would request you to conclude.
Okay, so these were some of the research challenges like big data, heterogeneity, security and privacy, monitoring, energy efficiency, performance. And as a conclusion, in future work, various number of case studies will be carried out to test the effectiveness of the cloud IoT approach in environmental monitoring, and also the integration of blockchain with IoT can also be explored. Also, we aim to study cloud computing and integration with AI techniques. These were some of the references. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Any questions?
One question for her is cloud using distributed data storage or centralized data storage?
I'm sorry, sir.
The question is that in
Yes.
your survey, your cloud with integrated IoT using distributed data storage or centralized data storage?
Sir, it used centralized data storage.
Is this possible with cloud to store data in centralized system? It is suggestion from my side is that
yes, sir.
Whenever you are talking about cloud or IoT or any other thing which are just for distributed computing, then always go with distributed data store.
Okay, sir. Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir. We'll take up our next paper, ID 107, titled as the Utilization of Information and Communication Technology in School Management in Relation to the Characteristics of Principal, and will be presented by Mr. Devi Pristiadi.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you see
Yes,
my
we can
screen?
see your screen, sir.
Okay, ladies and
We'll
gentlemen.
request you to skip to the research findings.
Okay, I will presentation about my papers, the utilization of information and communication technology in school management in relation to the characteristic of principal. And the author in this paper is Bambang Budiono, and this is Erikusumaningrum, and me, Didi Prestiadi. Introduction, the progress of education in school is largely determined by the principles. To enhance the quality of education in school, the first step is to improve the leadership of the principal. Along with the rapid development of technology, principal also need to use ICT in managing their school. Based on this foundation, the principal need to utilize ICT in managing the school. Therefore, it is necessary to examine how high school principal have used ICT in school management. The use of ICT application also varied from one teacher to another and still not optimal. Likewise, universities that produce teacher and prospective principal also have not used ICT in yet in learning. One form of principal innovation is responsiveness to utilizing technology in the management process. Therefore, to enhance quality, school management need to be improved in line with the development of ICT and society. The use of ICT of the principal in managing the school greatly influence their success in managing school. Based on this background of the study, it is necessary to examine how high the intensity level of school principal in using ICT in school management, and how high the level of effectiveness of the use of ICT in school management also need to be studied in depth, like with what variable affect the intensity of principal using ICT in school management. Through this research, the result will be obtained hopefully to be used in enhancing the school principal management quality in line with the development of ICT to achieve maximum educational goals in school.
So I would request you to come to the research findings and outcomes.
Oh, okay. The result. And the research object characteristic after the data collects, the first data analysis is to describe in the data using the descriptive statistic. The result of a descriptive analysis of a characteristic of school principal are generally present in table 1 to 4, and the genders, educational, and work education of respondents. And the descriptive analysis result, the utilization and effectiveness of information and communication technology in the school management, the result of the overall descriptive analysis, the frequency of ICT utilization in school management obtained an average score of 14.50 if it is included in the classification of our group. And then the average obtained is 3.15. When it was viewed from the type of communication media or application used, overall it is present in figure 1. You can see in figure 1, WhatsApp in almost used in ICT communication, and then Google Form, and then Zoom. What is the field from the step-by-step activities carried out on this school management, briefly present in figure 2. The most planning, then implementations, process evaluations, constitution analysis, and output evaluations. And the result of hypothesis test, the first hypothesis, it was conducted using regression of 3 independent variables with an interval scale, namely education level, rank class, and work period with the frequency of use of ICT in school management. And the conclusion is the null hypothesis is rejected and the alternative hypothesis is not rejected, that there is a significant relationship or influence on the variable of education level, rank, and work period on the use of ICT in school. And table 6, the conclusion is the null hypothesis is not rejected. There is no difference in the use of ICT school management by gender. The frequency of using ICT in the frequency of using ICT of the female and male principal in school management tends same. And discussion. The research finding shown that the principal and teacher have used ICT in learning management, although it is still in the sufficient category. And the finding of this study differ from previous study, which have shown that principal have reached a sufficient level of using ICT in school management. Several previous studies have shown that principal still use ICT less than direct communications. The research finding indicate that there is a priorities. Teacher or lecturer quite often use ICT in the teaching learning process, although it has not shown a significant effect on student learning outcomes. Discussion. The result of hypothesis tells us that of the 4 variable student, namely gender, education level, work period, and rank group, only one variable showed a significant effect, namely education level. The higher the education level of school principal, the higher of frequency of using ICT in learning. This is perceptible because the higher the education level of the principal, the higher the competence of motivation to use ICT in school management under the development of information and communication technology. And the most important to solve the problem is improving the principal understanding or mastering in using ICT. Mastery of tool will encourage individual to use them carrying out their tasks. and conclusion in this research regarding the result of the studies. Some suggestion or recommendation can be put forward. The utilization of ICT in school management has not been implemented optimally by the school principal. Likewise, the online communication media are still not optimal. Therefore, the frequency, intensity, and variety of ICT used by school principal need to be improved. The development of relevant management system needs to be carried out to maximize the use of ICT so that it can support the success of school management. And the last, by utilizing ICT in school management, it will support the success of school management in order to achieve maximum education goals. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
One question from my side is that how a school management and a school education process are different.
Yes, the good process in difference management using the IT in educational management have several aspects, namely the curriculum, human resources, and
according to your slide, you are showing so many things that all are related to education process, not the school management, because administration, fee collection, or many other things that are directly related to the school management. But education process is different thing. And you have used Google, video recording, audio recording, and so many things that all are related to education process. Therefore, I think the topic of this paper should be a school education process. ICT used in the school education process, not in the school management.
yes,
It is my opinion, but you may proceed with your also.
In my research to know how the ICT, the implementation of the school principles in several aspects in school management, like the condition analysis, planning, implementation, process evaluation on output evaluations, and finding on this research. So on figure 2, the planning is mostly using ICT in management, and they can use
Whenever
the several
you define on the basis of only for principal, then whole management and whole entities of the school cannot be get benefited through the ICT. Therefore, include all the entities related to school to manage the school in all aspects.
Yeah, using ICT in several aspects to communication with the others people, especially in the teachers and student and the pandemic COVID-19. Using ICT is mostly through WhatsApp and
Yeah.
Google Form.
Okay, thank you. No problem. Please go with next version of your paper in next conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Session Chair, sir. We'll move ahead to paper ID 7, titled as Design Analysis of Continuous Counter Current Deep Bed Drying of corn through Modeling and Simulation and Validation with Experiment. And it will be presented by, no, I'm sorry. Do we have someone for paper ID 462? So we'll move ahead to paper ID 7, an automated model for booking appointment in healthcare sector, and it will be presented by Mr. Pulkit Suryavanshi.
Hello, good afternoon all. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, sir.
Just a second, let me share the PPT. So is my PPT visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just a
Just
second.
request you to skip to the research findings and outcomes.
Sure thing, 1 second. So hello and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pulkit Suruvanshi, and I'll be giving a brief presentation on our research paper that is titled as an automated model for booking appointments in healthcare sector. So let me just give a brief introduction. I won't be wasting much of time. So our paper primarily focuses on the current scenario that is happening in the medical sector. So there are problems that are being faced by patients during visiting hospitals. So we have come up with an automated model for the medical sector. So the methodology to build it is also proposed in this model, and also the analysis of the outcome of the proposed model. So the key features of the proposed model is uniting all the hospitals as a single entity. And the online appointment booking is also incorporated in it, and rescheduling of appointments, providing facility to make comparison between hospitals. And it also gives the feature of review and feedback to the patients, which is a must needed in today's world. So providing a facility to upload materials such as medical reports, and so that the patient can accumulate all the reports in one place, and so they do not need to carry the previous reports every time they visit the hospitals, and also the facility of online payment. So why the need of this complete automated model in healthcare center? As there is a study conducted by National Telecommunication and Information Administration, NTIA, in the year 2015. So it reported that a steep rise in the internet usage of every age group and education level. And as compared to January 2019, statistics states that there is a 7% increase in the total number of internet users in the year 2020. And this is almost 298 million new users, that amounts to 4.54 billion total internet users. And in today's era of technology, so everyone likes to do all the reservations online, whether it might be dinner reservation or ordering a taxi. In fact, everything nowadays is turned to an online feature. So this is much needed. And as per statistics, 72% of Americans also prefer to check feedbacks available online. So this is the graph showing the medical appointments are being preferred on online. So research related to the acceptance of the proposed model. So physically, appointment booking takes up to 8 minutes, as that is an average, with 30% time waiting in the line. Like queues are being formed outside of the counter. And this can be a deal breaker for anyone, because all of this can be done online nowadays. And in survey of US Census Bureau, the 1 out of 5 people in America will likely to be above 65 age, which will lead to more health appointments. And there is a lack of such global platform which accumulates all the hospitals with all the facilities for which patients need to visit hospital physically. So all of this can be solved by the platform and bring about a win-win situation for both the hospitals as well as the patients. So the methodology. So in our proposed methodology, in our research paper, we have used the Dijkastra algorithm, and this is an algorithm which is in the graph theory, and it is used for getting the shortest path from initial node to destination node. The algorithm can be utilized in our medical appointment booking as well, and for finding the nearest hospitals. So the time complexity of Dijkastra algorithm is a big O of V2, but we will reduce it to big O of V plus E log V by using minimum priority queue. So what we have incorporated is Django MVT, and the full form of MVT is Model View Template, which is an architecture used by Django for the rapid development of projects. It is a combination of 3 components, that is a model, view, and template. So a survey done on different technical development teams so that the productivity of an inexperienced Django user who has just entered the industry increases exponentially over time. But for the backend technology like Flask, etc., the productivity of inexperienced developer does increase, but rapidly. But after some time, the increment comes to a halt, as we will see in the next slide, and the productivity is come to it goes down. So this is the graph that shows the previous observation. And also what is incorporated is web scraping. Web scraping is a technique to extract the required information from the web. So in our proposed system, we will take help of web scraper to get the detailed information like prices and available services and the addresses, etc., and perform operation to provide detailed comparisons of different hospitals which are providing the same services. And because of this, patients will be able to find the differences in different different hospitals and easily find the suitable hospitals for their need. And also the feedback will be an important feature in distinguishing the hospitals. So this feature will also provide comparison in distances between the patient's location to the hospitals, which indirectly providing the features to find the nearest hospital. So in conclusion, so in this paper, we have made a sincere effort in understanding the problems that the patients are facing today and the major requirements that they need, and use of available tools and technologies are done. So looking at the condition of the year 2020 and 2021, as we have faced the COVID-19, and it has catched the entire world into its fury. No one wants to run from one hospital to other hospital only to collect information about the facilities that are inside that hospital. So it is quite hectic. So the only practical solution to this is a complete automated online booking appointment, become virtual hospital platform, which also gives the comparison between the hospitals in terms of facilities and public review. And to conclude, a single online platform for all the hospitals rather than individual platform is pursued. So having all the features which are feasible and needed by the patients. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Any questions from the audience or the session chair?
One question is,
yes,
it is possible without regulatory compliance that to integrate all the information of all the private and government hospital in single chunk to provide the information?
Can you please repeat? Is it possible without the regulatory?
Regulatory compliance, that without government order, is this possible?
So basically, considering the scenario that government is implying rules and regulations in everything, but yes, to some extent, the storage of materials such as data, etc., it can be done. But to a higher extent, when going above the certain level, so the government regulations are to be imposed.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone, for your patient listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pulkit. Thank you, Session Chair, sir. We'll now move ahead to paper ID 6, anatomization of folks' information on digital media using machine analytics, and will be presented by Ms. Dipali.
Yes, ma'am. The screen is visible?
Yes, ma'am, it is. I would request you to skip to the research outcomes and findings.
Yeah. Good afternoon, all. My paper title is An Automation of Fox Information on Digital Media Using Machine Analytics. This is the outline of my presentation, and this is my problem statement. As we know, there is a lot of data present on social media. So detection of trustworthy information is a major issue nowadays. Because data on social media is changing day by day, and it is very complex and diverse in nature. So based on 3 parameters like authenticity, intentions, and based on facts, we have categorized information pollution into 5 categories, that is misinformation, disinformation, rumors, fake news, and malicious fake news. Misinformation is a false information without knowing its intention of misleading. Disinformation is also a false information, but to promote biased agenda and to deceive people intentionally. Rumor is an unverified piece of information which can be true or which can be false at later stage. Fake news is also a false information, but it is published and verifiable by any news agency. And malicious fake news is that fake news whose intentions are bad. And this is my literature review. I'm coming to research findings from this literature review. And these are the findings. My first finding is benchmark dataset is a major issue in this fake news detection area. And a lot of work is done on text parts. So images can also be considered for future work. Next is hybridization and integration of supervised algorithms can be done for better results. And we can also work on different writing patterns of rumors and fake news. And we can also work in the field of deep learning and reinforcement learning. And a lot of work done is already done in English language. So cross-domain platform can be considered as a future scope. And now authors have also categorized various research papers based on various social media platforms. I have considered 3 social media platforms, that is Facebook, Weibo, and Twitter. And there are 21 papers based on Twitter social media platform, 8 papers based on Facebook, and 6 papers based on Weibo. And I have also categorized various papers based on different machine learning classifiers. As we can see that most of work is done in the field of like support vector machine and k nearest neighbor. And this is all fake news data set and its characterization based on its application labels and what content it is carrying. So, for example, this political one, that is basically it is detecting fake news, and what label it is carrying, that is fake, real and satire, and it is based on political news. And this is my conclusion part. As we know, during this COVID-19 situation, there are a number of fake news and rumors on social networking sites which create panic for the people. So it has been observed that detection of information pollution is an emerging area, and we can also go for early news, fake news detection and use of hybrid classification algorithm for detection of false information. And this is the references part. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
The question is machine analytics, then that is machine learning, deep learning, or any supervised learning?
So it is all basically machine analytics is it's a superset of all this machine learning, deep learning.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, ma'am. Is Miss Pooja available for paper ID 1313?
Yes, I'm available.
Ma'am. We have your paper titled as Performance Analysis of Machine Learning Algorithms for Intelligent Recommender System.
Yes, should be. My screen is visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay, my topic is on performance analysis of machine learning algorithms for intelligent recommender system. My paper ID is 013. This is my outline. Me, Pooja, as a research scholar, and under the guidance of the Professor Vishal Bhatnagar. And this is the abstract of my paper, that in today's society, the recommender system we analyzes based upon the preferences of the user so that we get the required potential targets. For that, I applied a new state-of-art algorithm, that is graph-based collaborative filtering, so that I take the selection parameters for the user item metrics, and my prediction model depend upon the characteristics of the genre associated with the gameplays and the shortcomings of my data set that I taken into account for the model development, testing, and the benchmarking. This is the introduction part, which actually telling about the game genre I involved in my data sets, that mixed genres I applied for the game design and various gaming platforms I could take, that is phone and the computer. And then and we mainly focus on the sex and the age of the game participants. This is the research methodology that I followed. That firstly, I defined the problem definition, how my work has to be complied to find the solution of the problem analytically. And after that, I pre-process the data and then visualize the parameters and evaluate them. And then build the recommendation models for the predictions, and then evaluated the performance matrices and compared with the existing models. This is my game recommendation model, in which I take a graph-based architecture, and the game and the genres are the two types of the nodes that are interlinked, so that they describe the characteristics of the games and the similarity of the each genre associated with the games. The relevant characteristics between the nodes are the summed and inverted whenever the relevancy is higher or nearly to zero, making the shortest part between them. The main challenges that I focused here is one perspective that mainly focused on the location, that genre belong to that country, so that nearby countries also followed that game. Another perspective is that if higher relevant score, that will be determined by the users. And then recommendation algorithm that is to be built on the basis of the sum of the number of the hopes between the games, and more precise, and the larger the data will be provided on summing up the shortest path between the game nodes. This is the game genre relationship graph. These are the genres, that is puzzle, board, strategy, and entertainment, casual, education, action, and the card. These all the genres that I concluded in my data sets. On the basis of that, these subgenres has to be defined. And this is the accuracy of the models on the basis of the parameters I take, that is F1 score, RMSC, MSC, and then I compared, find the accuracy of my data set and the architecture that is on the linear regression, logistic regression, structured naive Bayes, tree, Z48, and SVM. That is the conclusion for my paper, that this is a game theoretic framework for predicting the gameplay to the user of their interest. And my proposed recommendation algorithm is mainly focused on the game genres and the detection of the communities by this graph-based collaborative filtering. The result shows that the SVM outperforms from all the other machine learning algorithms, that is logistic regressions, structured regressions, structured naive Bayes, and Z48. These are the references, and thank you.
Hello.
Yes, yes, sir.
In your paper, the computational complexity is not mentioned and analyzed for different things, whatever you are proposing here in
Okay, sir.
performance. Therefore, my request or suggestion that to add the computational complexity analysis in this.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next paper ID is 114, and the title for it is 5G for Military Communication, Automation of Kill Cycle. It will be presented by Mandeep Malik.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'll just share my slide.
Yes.
I believe it can be seen.
Yes, sir, we can see the slide.
Okay, ma'am. The genesis of the paper is looking for a 5G network that is compatible to work with the military requirements, and how we going to exploit it. So keeping that in mind, I'll just brush up with the current 4G network. Everything else is generally aware with everyone. The only thing in 4G that was lacking was that 4G was not compatible for device to device and machine to machine communication initially when it was launched as part of release 8. But over the period, by the time the release 14 was issued, the 4G was compatible with the narrowband IoT and CAT-M, that is called LTE for machines. So these both quick fixes were just applied to 4G just to make it compatible for IoT communication that was picking up the pace. Though the 5G network itself is compatible with the IoT, and it is called MMTC, that is massive machine type communication, that is already available as part of 5G network, and it can connect almost 10 million devices per square kilometer area. Coming to the differences between the network difference between the 2G, 4G, and 5G, one can see that 5G actually reduces the amount of moving parts between the UE and the core network, and it also is compatible to Open RAN, Cloud RAN, and distributed RAN standards. Now, how we are impacted in this? Like the development of 5G standards, this is the first time that India is part of the development of the standard, and TSDSI, which is a autonomous body, is part of preparation of the standards, and it has given its recommendation in the form of 5G India, that is 5GI. The latest, it is almost akin to the 3GPP 5G standards. So now what 5G will actually give to people, it is massive machine type communication, that is IoT type communication, ultra reliable and low latency communication, as seen on the view file, and then enhanced mobile broadband. So all three have different kind of use case. How they actually are going to be benefited by the military, this will actually enable us in deployment of a sensor grid, which will be compatible for logistics purpose, for the location of the adversary, for tracking of own personnel, for knowing about own personal's health status, their location, these kind of things. So that's why actually and it can augment the training with the help of AR and VR, that is augmented reality and virtual reality, Not to mention the remote surgery part that can be, because of the low latency that is available with the 5G network, it can also accommodate low latency requirements. Now, 5G is actually using, just to increase the data rate, it is using increasing the available spectrum. That is, it is going in the millimetric wave. It has reduced, it has got higher spectral efficiency. That is, you take out more juice out of a single hertz. It's around 30 bps. Cell density, because we are using wave, so the cell density will itself increase, and you will have deployments in small cell, picocell, femtocell. So coming to this, what we have is these all are the things that are available with us. We have millimeter wave spectrum that can give higher bandwidth, and thus the throughput to the user is also increased to the tune of even 10 Gbps as peak data rate and average rate of around 100 Mbps. It also uses beamforming and massive MIMO, just the increase the number of antennas, and that's how you increase the data rate. It also uses carrier aggregation, unlike LTE, which uses carrier aggregation as part of the channels, RF channels. 5G uses carrier aggregation as even part of the different bands. That is, from starting from the 700 megahertz band till the 25 gigahertz band. You can aggregate all these bands and can provide users with multiple number of channels so that his throughput requirement can be met. So we have the Shannon equation here. The data rate capacity can be increased by the number of increase in number of antennas, or the bandwidth. Both is being done. Bandwidth also millimeter wave, and the antennas also by using massive MIMO. Other than this, what I wanted to actually stress upon as my work here is that 5G itself has got multiple applications as part of the core network here. Core network actually in 5G is completely it is software based. That is decoupling of the hardware and the software that has happened. So in this particular case, as we can see, the number of applications that are available on the 5G network, starting from network slice selection function, that you can have slicing, authentication and user function, authentication, mobility function, session management function, your PCF, and the user plane function, and the data network. So what is unique here is written in the end of the slide, that is NEF and N3IWF, that is network exposure function and and non-3GPP interworking function. So this actually leads to what the requirement that we were looking for, that the network should be compatible to actually authorize non-3GPP technologies also, not just the ITUT promulgated technology. They should also be able to work with certain autonomous technologies like Sigfox, LoRa, these kind of ZigBee, these kind of ISM standard frequency technologies also, so that we can communicate, we can actually fan out the network, and we can also augment it with the multiple ISM band technologies that can work as the last mile. And for small devices like a PIR sensor, or maybe a moisture sensor, or a location sensor, something like a magnetic sensor, these kind of sensors. So looking at it, we started working on it, and this non-3GPP, we have got a 5G network in our institution here at Military College of Telecommunication Engineering, and over there we have tested this this LoRaWAN attached to the 5G network. So how it actually fans out with us is like this. Now you see, both are the competitors. Like China and America has deployed a number of 5G networks all along their border areas, and so is the US. US has deployed it in forms of Air Force, Marine Corps, naval, logistics base. So here, what we wanted to point out that that this is the right amount of time, the right time, and also this equipment, this 5G can be utilized for the military communication, because it holds true for all kind of authentication. It can be sliced as a independent slice for the military, and also it can be used to connect these small sensor grid. Coming to the last slide.
Request you to please conclude.
Yeah, coming to the last slide, ma'am. It is like we have deployed a Indian 5G, and I, being part of the same, have been with IIT Madras, and we have got our on 5G I standard that is compatible with all the requirements that we have, and the network, some of the applications of the same in form of network slicing and non-3GPP interworking function has been placed in the paper. That's all. Thank you. These are the references that I have taken to finish this paper. If there are any questions, please let me know.
Thank you so much, sir.
Is there a service provider requirement, or directly any agency can establish this 5G network?
This 5G network actually will be established as a public network, as other networks were established. But 5G, since the core network can run from a laptop also, because it is a software based network, so you can also deploy it as a 5G as a private network. Like you may be hearing news of like TCS is deploying it on campus, Infosys is deploying it on campus, these kind of things. Also, the uniqueness of the network is that it can be taken as a VLAN. Like we used to have those virtual LANs. Those virtual LAN, like a slice of the network, can also be taken from a public network, and that slice you can configure for your own requirements, like security purpose, your own throughput that you want to decide. So these are the possible things that are available with the 5G network.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Right, sir. Thank you.
We'll now move ahead. Paper ID 166, integration of a 3-dimensional convolution neural network and Markov random field for hyperspectral image classification, and will be presented by Ms. M. Preeti.
Thank you, ma'am. Proposed work. This paper presents the spectral spatial method for HSI data in 3D data cube format. In this work, many researchers use the convolution neural network for classification. But in our work, based on the integrating 3-dimensional convolution neural network and Markov random field. The first in this work, the extractor features are given to 3-dimensional convolution neural framework, which is constructed for extracting the facial and factual information simultaneously. Then the extractor, spatial and factual features are provided to the fully connected layer. This is the flow chart of our proposed work. We extract the HSA batch set. Then the patches are trained by CNN. Finally, software activation function is used to train the classifier. In the second step, additionally, the probability classification obtained in the first step can also be improved by the MRF, Markov random field. So in this work, the MRF is used to smooth over smoothing of the result. This is the architecture of the 3D CNN. In 3D CNN, there is no flattened sample in one-dimensional vectors. So input size of the first layer, spatial cell and spectral patterns. The input patches is given to the first convolution layer, followed by the rectified linear unit. So in the final step, the resulting features map are formulated by the Markov random field. This is our result. In this result, the proposed method was compared with the current mainstream method. That method, SVM, SVM3D, SVM3DG, and CNN. Finally, CNN with MRF. Our proposed work compared to the other method get the best classification accuracy. For our proposed work, I used the benchmark dataset, Bavia University dataset, and Indian Spines dataset. This flowchart shows the overall accuracy obtained by our proposed work. This is the classification result of the our proposed work, 3D CNN with the MRF for Indian spy dataset. This result show the Vavia University image datasets. In this dataset also our proposed work obtained a good classification result compared to other method. So overall accuracy obtained by our proposed work 98.54. Finally, in our work, the proposed method 3D CNN based HSA classification achieved the best classification accuracy on other data set. In terms of future resource, we plan to investigate potentially more effective 3D CNN techniques that exploit the unlabeled symbols. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Questions from the audience or the session chair?
One question is that, madam, which type of data you have imposed in this convolutional neural networks?
So benchmark dataset, Vavia University and the Indian spy dataset, sir.
That is in
Hyperspectral
the
image.
raw data or data in image form or any other form?
Sir, pardon. Sir, I'm
Means
sorry.
textual information or image or any signals.
Sir,
like,
numerical format, sir. Numerical formats.
okay. Then 3D convolution. How you extract the image in array?
3D convolution. Sir, batches, sir. 5x5 cross into 103 branches, sir.
Then you have used 5 into 5 array.
And yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, ma'am. Moving ahead, we'll take paper ID 26, titled as Expeditious Video Super Resolution Using Convolution Neural Network, and will be presented by Niboy Nogueira.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. It's visible, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so the project is Expeditious Video Super Resolution. So the outline will be introduction, literature review, proposed methodology, implementation, result analysis, and conclusion. So video super resolution is a basic step of trying to enhance a low resolution video or an image into a high resolution one. So as we can see, this is a low resolution one and we are trying to turn it into a higher resolution one. So the problem statement that we faced was solving issues of low quality surveillance videos or normal videos using a system that will enhance them in the future. So the objective that we had put on like to research on already existing super resolution techniques and trying to improvise on the already existing techniques for retrieving stored data on this thing or training it using a faster neural networks. So we have, upon doing a literature review, we had found that the basic techniques used in video super resolution were techniques like CNN techniques, the convolutional neural network techniques, the recursive neural network techniques, RNN based, the K nearest, and the traditional approach that was used were bicubic. So these were the older techniques that were being used. So upon the survey conclusion, like after going through 20-25 papers, we were found that CNN and RNN were the most prominent techniques that were being used. Apart from that, CNN was mostly preferred, like because of the accuracy and stuff. So the proposed methodology that we had used was to get an input video, then do the scene selection, then the frame extraction and audio extraction was done. We then tried to take the audio extracted video and save it separately. Then we used the convolutional model on the video, and then we tried to remap the frames into the resultant video, and the quality assessment was done. And we tried again to reattach the audio part and save it locally. So the convolutional neural network that we used max pooling layers. They had like 3 hidden layers and another hidden layers. So the convolutional layers we used was initially had a 9 by 9 filter, then it had a second filter of 1 by 1 with 32 field, and then was a 5 by 5 filter, and then we attached it. So for implementation we tried to do it on the cloud sort of thing. So we tried to use the Google Collaboratory. The data set we used were BSTS 500 and DU2K. So we tried to separately used to data set. So one model was created using trained on BSDS 500, and another was used on DU2K. So the BSDS 500 data set was used to train it to upscale it to times 3, whereas the DU2K will upscale it to times 4. So these were the results we have got from our system. So we try to compare with 2 3 other models like the ASRGN model, the RDN model, or RRDN model. So these were the models that were available for usage. So we tried to test them out on the set 5 data set, set 14 data set, BSDS 500 testing data set. There was the urban 100 data set. So as you can see, it was a very high performing or a consistent performer. Average performance you can see was consistently high, whereas in the RDN model followed it precisely. So we had also created a own data set having some images from 360 pixels to 480 pixels. So we tried running on that also, and in this also the uh, fields or the values were same, like the value of a PSNR, average PSNR value was consistently high. So these can be seen graphically, like all these are the models that I tried to explain like before from the table. So in order to conclude, I'll say that the video super resolution is a very good part. Like it helps in enhancing the low resolution video. So on using a deep learning technique, it can be further enhanced. Like we have used CNN techniques due to its high accuracy and lower training time. So also on uh, trying to testing on different data sets and comparing with the other models, it was available to outperform the other models and while achieving a high PSNR value. So in future we would like to enhance the model to work on audio enhancement, as none of the existing um, models try to work on the audio part as well. Also, while enabling enhanced motion handling, face recognition, and using as a direct means of data transfer. Also trying to expand the video super resolution into domains like medical video processing and all other fields like satellite, microscopy, astrological, and multimedia industry. So if there were any questions.
Thank you so much. Questions from the audience or the session chair? No questions, sir. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
We'll move ahead to paper ID 136, a study on the systematic review of security vulnerabilities of popular web browsers, and will be presented by Dr. Naveen Tiwari. Sir, can we have you on the screen?
Hello, am I audible,
Yes, sir,
ma'am?
we can hear you. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm sharing my screen.
Yes, sir.
Is it visible, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, our topic is a study on the systematic review of security vulnerability of popular web browser. And it is because all the web browser has some sort of security and privacy features. So security features must be well known to users and set up by them to avoid primary security attacks by the attackers. In the case of developing a web browser application, security is of key concern. The security threats may occur from either internal or external user. So in this paper, we have concerned about the security issue, and we have checked the security concern of almost all the web browsers that are available in the market. These are some of the vulnerabilities that are present in web browser, like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, insecure direct object reference, cross-site request forgery, inadequate transport layer protection. These are some of the vulnerabilities that are present in web browser. We have checked all these security features in our web browser. Share of browser vulnerability that are available in the market. SQL injection is of high part in 42%. Cross-site scripting share 19%. PHP multiple vulnerabilities share 16%. Remote code execution 7%. Sensitive file disclosure 5%, and other 11%. These are some of the most famous web browser in which web browser Safari 8.87 and so on. Now, we have performed various tests on browser, and the main test that we have performed is ACID 3 test. This test show how well the program hold fast to principles and shortcomings show in every norm by giving a benchmark to perception. ACID 3 is a test page from the Web Standard project that checks how well an internet browser keeps certain web norms, particularly identifying with their document object model, that is DOM, and JavaScript. This test also checks HTML, CSS, and JavaScript vulnerability in the web browser. These are our outcomes of the test that we tested on the Google Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Microsoft Edge, Opera, and Internet Explorer. These 6 browser we have tested, and our test name is Asset 3, and these are the result of this asset test. We also test the speed of the web browser, how fast they load the web pages onto their web browser. So in this, Google Chrome has the highest speed, and these are all the test results that we get on this speed test. We tested on this on browsers in a website that is known as speedbattle.com, and these are the results from this website only. We also test the security point of view, like origin policy, content security policy, cross-origin resource sharing, cookies, request header, response header. These all parts we have tested, and these are the test results that we get by testing these browsers. And we test these browser on a website that is known as browseraudit.com. Chrome get a score of 97 in acid test 3 and fails at 3 levels. Time taken to conduct the test is almost 1.03 seconds, and the test failed for CSS and JavaScript at the root level. That means it is vulnerable to JavaScript and CSS attacks. Now, Chrome gets the best in speed test with an overall score of 1024.19 point, predicting it fast of all the browser compared. There is one critical issue in Chrome. If we check the security test, this is because it sent the cookie by set of JavaScript to the server over HTTP. Okay, that means that this is vulnerable to JavaScript only. So if we run JavaScript in Chrome, we have to check that the code must be not vulnerable to this Chrome test. Now we have Safari. If we come to Safari, it has no issue in ACID 3 test with a score of 100. But when we check the speed of the browser, it has the slowest of all, getting a score of 376.99. It has no critical issues when come to security, but the browser has the greatest number of warning in the security test. Most of the warning are due to its content security policy. Mozilla Firefox, it is also one of the most favorable web browser in the industry. So Firefox gets the result of acid test in 1.13 seconds with a score of 97. This test also fails for CSS and JavaScript exception at root level as of Chrome. Firefox gets the speed overall score of 681 points, as a high rate in the secure browser test, as it got no critical issue while warning. And then we move on to Microsoft Edge. Microsoft new browser Edge gets a score of 97 in the ACID test 3 test and fails at 3 level. The Edge also fails for CSS and JavaScript exception at root level. Then we have Opera, and then we have Internet Explorer. IE basically has no fails with an overall 100 score in ACID 3 test. But this browser is the second slowest in the category with a speed test of 520.73 points. It is also one of the safest browser with no critical issue in security tests. Now, in conclusion, we have cross-examined various vulnerabilities related to the browser and its speed, security, CSS, and JavaScript support, etc. After checking the browser, we see that Mozilla Firefox is the safest of all with overall 370 test passed. Safari and Internet Explorer have no CSS and JavaScript vulnerability as checked by ACID 3 test. And according to the speed test, Google Chrome is the fastest browser of all. This is our conclusion of this research. These are all the references, and thank you. Any questions?
Thank you so much, sir. Any questions from the audience or the session chair? No questions, sir. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Moving ahead to paper ID 137, a systematic review of security issues and challenges with futuristic wearable Internet of Things, and will be presented by Dr. Gopal. We can see your screen, sir.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Systematic review of security issues and challenges with futuristic wearable Internet of Things. So, the first of all, the problem statement of this paper is privacy and security is a key challenge in wearable IoTs. Smart wearables are becoming popular in among all the fields, especially in clinical medication, healthcare, and well-being, etc. Challenges always involved with IoTs or like user unawareness, lack of efficient security protocols, vulnerable towards different communication protocols, and device management. Improper device management is also a challenge with it. This article is basically investigates the audit safety of the and production issues involved with wearable IoT devices, such as background of IoT systems, application security, and privacy issues in IoT. Popular wearable IoTs in demand highlight the existing IoT security and privacy solutions, approach to secure and the futuristic of IoT-based environments, and also summarized with security vulnerabilities in IoT and countermeasures and privacy solutions, futuristic, smart wearables. So with the advent of internet as internet protocol, rather than computers, other devices are also in touch to connect with IP. The outcome of such initial efforts lead to the new concept, Internet of Things, where IP is connected towards other devices rather than computer and laptops. Currently, IoT is the most popular and robust field of research and development in the area. The IoT objects can vary in size, purpose, and function with embedded capacity in different internet-enabled appliances, either in smart home, smart cities, buildings, cars, wearables, etc. IoT includes a wide spectrum of network products, systems, and sensors, lots of prospective opportunities for business, and also can utilize the advancement of new computing power, new era computing power. So a secure and hassle-free implementation of IoT can transform our daily life in different ways, and especially in healthcare systems. A long list of wearables which can monitor our health information and diagnosis different, kind of disease, and can anticipate timely. So especially in some applications, if we discuss about the wearable IoTs are smart cities, as I said, and smart parking, automation, smart grids, connected cars, smart retail, traffic management, and especially a boon for people with disabilities. The even those are the brighter side of the IoT, and whereas in similar to, there are some darker side that facing many security and privacy issues, where data vulnerabilities is a top challenge, key challenge, where we must need to address timely. So this is the popular list of popular IoT devices, where smart rings, smart posture trainer, gaming simulator, smart shoes, jewelry, etc., smart bands for blinds are popularly used in market. So that is the key concern, which shows the growth of the IoT devices as per the different companies. In top, that is Apple and Samsung, Fitbit, and so on. So that shows the growth. Even somewhere in in each year, more than 30% of growth has been noted in comparison to year 2019 and 2020. So in that case, another scenario, it shows the shipment, the source of data is International Data Corporation, and shows the data of 2019 and 2020 quarter 3. So that is the scenario where we can analyze the rate of the growth rate of the IoTs, in popular IoTs. So we can think how popular are the IoTs in among us. So that is the popular that is the confidentiality issue and the security issues, especially we are discussing here at popular models of communication in IoT. Device to device communication happens, device to cloud communication happens, and device to gateway communication also happens, as well as backend data sharing model is also involved in the communication model. So that is the smart structure, where shows the 4-layer model, basically, which shows the working architecture of the IoT, whereas application layers, middlewares, and network layer, and physical layer is involved. In some other issues where security issues and challenges are involved with it, so the first of all is smart wearables are intriguing field of research and development. Smart wearables are facing security challenges in different attacks, threats, and vulnerabilities. Security related to device communication and connectivity is a paramount of the concern. So another key challenge, which is insufficient user authentication, is one of the key challenge in this IoT, in a futuristic IoT, and other privacy and security vulnerabilities are also of key concern. So at the end, at the conclusion, at the end
Sir,
part,
would request you to please conclude.
yeah, so at the end, network monitoring, logical segregation, and must follow the global standards and compliances for the sake of privacy and security are the key concern in futuristic device IoT devices. We must consider them. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir.
One question from my side is that what is the use of this body area network in case of this wearable device?
Sir, what is the use of
body area network?
Body area network.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically is a kind of private network where we can access the healthcare issues through the different IoT wearable based IoT sensors, through which we can connect the personal data for the further analysis purpose or diagnosis purpose.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Shubhi ma'am, I too had a question.
For the author?
Yes, to the author. May I?
Yes, of course, ma'am.
Yes, it was a nice presentation, but as Mr. Tiwari has mentioned about the IoT wearable devices, sir, I had a question that we see many fitness trackers, the privacy policies are vague and that keeps on changing. So as a customer, what precautions we should take before using any device? How can we ensure that the data that we are sharing is safe?
Dr. Gopal? Dr. Gopal? I'm sorry, ma'am. I think he has left due to some technical glitch.
No issues, ma'am.
One
No
of his
issues.
devices is still, we can see that he's logged on, but I think there is some issue with
No
this.
issues, ma'am. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so
I
much, ma'am, for
understand.
the question. Moving ahead to paper ID 276, blockchain-based energy management system, a proposed model. It will be presented by Ms. Jyoti Dargan. Ms. Jyoti, can we have you on screen?
Yeah, ma'am. Hi. Hello. I'm just sharing the screen. Ma'am, my screen is visible?
Not yet, ma'am.
Yeah, now is it visible now?
Now is it? And we'll request you to skip to the research findings and outcomes.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Ma'am, actually, the topic of my presentation is the energy-based, the energy management system using blockchain. So, what is the energy management system, and why do we want to use the blockchain? This is because we are present earlier. We are working with the traditional grids, which means the energy flow is only in one direction. But now we are converting. We are moving towards the smart grid because of various legal provisions like the Paris Conventions and other one. So we are integrating the renewable sources into the main grid. So now the energy flow is into the two directions. It means the consumers can consume the energy as well as the energy can be produced by the consumers. So there is a new term which comes into the picture that is known as the prosumers. So prosumers can consume the energy as well as it can provide the additional energy to the other sources, to the other consumers which are nearby there with the help of microgrids. So it means all the users of the energy system, they are the consumer as well as producers of the energy. So this means the distributed network is there of energy is available in the market. So that is the main feature of the smart grid system, which is being utilized, which required the new technology in the form of blockchain. Blockchain, since it is a distributed network and every transaction is immutable form, it caters with a decentralized. It is a decentralized system, so there is no central authority to validate the transactions and everything. So that is why it is being, the blockchain is being used for the smart grid system. And then with the help of smart grid system and the blockchain, and the interaction between two is being used in my proposed model, which is the energy management system using the blockchain. So this is but why we are using the blockchain? Blockchain is the latest technology which we are using, and in India, we are using it for the land records, for the university certificate. Recently, the CBSE has also started using blockchain for the certificate verification, and the Niti Aayog has it has recognized its potential and started very pilot projects in the land records, pharmaceutical supply chain management, then the fertilizer subsidy disbursement, and the education certificate verification. But till date, it has only been recognized in the energy distribution system, but nothing has been done in the field of, in India, in the field of energy distribution management system. So and this is the new technology with the help of, like, everybody is working with the IoTs, and IoTs are the distributed small devices. So with the help of like the AMI structures, like automatic metering infrastructure is being used in the energy sector. So this can be used this can be used with the help of blockchain, like it's a decentralized main feature as a decentralized one. So this is what is the blockchain. Blockchain is the distributed ledger of digital transaction, when every transaction is being added as a block, or a new transaction is added after thorough validation by all the blocks present in that blockchain. So every data or the transaction is being added in the form of hash, and every block is related to the previous block with the help of hash of that block. So if there is any change in data, then the hash will be the hash, which is the which is the crypto algorithm, which is used SHA 256 and the SHA 512 algorithm is being to create the hash. So the hash is changed. So there is no connection between the two blocks if any data is changed. So that is why it is an immutable data is being added to this. So the characteristics which are being used for the energy management system with the linked data, since all the users are linked with each other, then the consensus, every energy transaction is being validated by all the users present in the system. Then the energy trading is done with the help of the smart contract, and this decentralized means with the microgrids are the small microgrids are available in the smart grid system, which caters only a small area, which caters only with the small area. So it is reliable system. Then traceability of the type of energy is also there, and but the major challenges are the latency, scalability, adaptability, because the number of users are more, but the blockchain has some capacity, the scalability is the major one, because it takes some time to add the new block to the previous chain. So, and the major drawback is the excessive energy consumption, which is required for the consumption, for the computing power used in the consensus during the consensus process. So and moreover, even if we are using the blockchain, but there is no thorough policies, or the regulatory framework is not available. Recently, in 2021, January 21, MeitY actually they have only devised a framework, and they asked for the feedback on that framework. So then this is how I already have explained the blockchain, the work of the blockchain. It means whenever I want to wants to make a trading with the another one, wants to do the energy trading, he explained, he broadcasts that data into the whole network, and then unless until the validation is done by all the peers, that transaction is not validated and not been added to the previous blockchain. So and the smart contracts are being used. Smart contracts are the automatic executive, the self-executable digital contracts, which executed or the on the certain whenever some certain criteria has been satisfied, which is been fed in the form of programs, small programs, or the software protocols. So blockchain is this is the blockchain has been we have fourth generation of blockchain. Number one is being used for the cryptocurrencies, which is a blockchain 1.1, which is being used which was used in the Bitcoin by the Satoshi Nakamoto. Second, blockchain 2 is used by the Ethereum, where we will use the smart contracts. Blockchain 3 is used for the e-governance, where we are utilizing the smart contracts, dApps, etc., for the governance part also. And then we are moving towards the enhanced blockchain, which is the blockchain 4.0, which includes the machine learning, the artificial intelligence, everything, so that the blockchain will be used for further improvement of the living standards. So there are three types of blockchains, like the permissioned, consortium, and the open. Open and public blockchains are available. Anybody can join the blockchain, and there is no permission is required for that. But for the private and the blockchain, like Ethereum and the Bitcoin are the examples of the open and the public blockchain. Then
I would request you to conclude, please.
Yeah, sure. This is my proposed model for the energy management system. This is a blockchain is being developed for. Now I'm proposing to use the hybrid kind of blockchain, where the validators are there, which validate all the validation is done for the validator, means those who are who can participate in the energy trading, and then according to the energy generation and the energy consumption, we are using we provide the certification for that, and the category certification being given to them, and the type kind of energy used by that particular by the consumer or the prosumers. Then the green tokens have been issued for that, and then accordingly the energy transaction has been done with the help of smart contracts. So this is a proposed model for the energy management system. So we are using the blockchain for validating the peers, which is for validating the type of energy, providing certificates, and energy trading is done with the help of smart contracts. And but the hybrid kind of blockchains are used because we need the validators to validate the participants in the energy contracts, energy trading. So this is my conclusion. Like means to grow and develop, energy consumption is inevitable, and for energy that cannot be done with the help of traditional energy. So we need to use the renewable energy or the sustainable energy sources with the mainstream. And due to the distributed nature of renewable energy, blockchain characteristics of decentralization, transparency, traceability, and the immutability can be used for the energy distribution system in smart grid. And that the major drawback of the blockchain, as I already explained you, is the excessive power consumption, which can be reduced with the help of improvised consensus protocol. Like in Ethereum, we are using proof of stake, which utilize at least with 30% of the proof of work energy.
Sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. We request you to please conclude.
Yeah, ma'am, this is the conclusion only. Integration of blockchain technology will presently government schools of e-Aadhaar is a colossal drug. That means we are still at the nascent part of the blockchain implementation. So, ma'am, this is the conclusion. These are my references. Thank you. Any question, ma'am?
Yeah, one question is that, let's hear the question. Suppose that a block contains 200 chains, then how many transactions includes in this chain?
Could you please repeat, sir? Means to be
Let's
checked.
suppose there are 200 chains in a single block, then how many transactions occur?
Sir, actually for the Bitcoin, this is not the number of blocks, but the number of the time period. Means after the validation process will take 10
about
minutes.
the number of blocks. A particular block contains 200 chains. Then
So 50%, at least 50% blocks should be acquired by if any if any malignant block is trying to occupy the total control of the power.
What
So
is
that has to be
management
done.
block
That
in
is
blockchain? What is management block in blockchain?
malignant means if anybody is malicious, you can say if anybody which is the faked one who wants to do the fake transaction, or we want to add the fake transaction to the blockchain. So at least 50%, 50, which is called as 51% attack. So 50, at least 51.
Okay. Is this possible that a fake transaction can occur with blockchain?
Sir, the voice is not clear. I'm not getting you.
I am asking that, is this possible that a fake transaction may occur with blockchain? This is violation of distributed ledger, which is used
it is
in
no
blockchain.
immutable. Sir, what I am understanding, you are asking me, is it possible to amend the data of the blockchain? This is what you are asking?
Yeah, I am asking that if a chain contains data, then that data can be amended in that chain.
No, sir, it cannot be altered because it is because every data is being whenever a data is appended to the previous block, so it will be converted into a cryptograph, and that hash is added to the, if that hash is the that is hash is the connecting point of the between the two blocks. So whenever the hash is changes, the total block is changes.
There is confusion. Suppose that there is a block containing the transmitted energy sources, and that is recorded by power grid. And suppose that if there is already 200 chains, means there are 200 transactions, then 201 transaction will update 200 chain, number 200 chain, or it will be updated 201 number of chain.
Yes, sir. Because that is the data can be added to the blockchain, sir. That can be added.
Okay. My request to you is that in blockchain, if there is a chain which is created, then that cannot be updated. Only next chain can be added, but previous data cannot be updated in blockchain. Therefore, it is 100% secure.
Yes, it can be added as a new block or the new transaction.
New block is different thing, and chain in block is different thing. New block is related to different transaction, but suppose that a consumer block is related, then only chain can be added but not updated.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So this is the concept.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
Agree. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
The next paper ID is 111111, Cloud Computing and Comparison Based on Service and Performance between Amazon, AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud, will be presented by Mr. Devang Pratap Singh.
Very good evening, ma'am, and very good evening to session chair members. So today I will give a brief on cloud computing and comparison based on service and performance between Amazon, AWS, Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud. So let's begin. Here are our authors, and in the next slide we will see the topics we will discuss. That is first of all the introduction, then the architecture and categories, then we will be discussing about cloud service provider, what the uses and the applications and the cloud giants. Then we will discuss about comparison and results. So we will start from an introduction. So introduction is very simple. In a simple way, I will tell that. Distributed computing, or cloud computing, is on the demand supply of processing assets through the web with pay-as-you-use charging. Distributed computing in basic terms is giving PC administration like servers, stockpiling data sets, organizing, programming, investigation, etc. So client pays for the cloud arrangement that they use for permitting them to decrease functional cost. That is, they can use the software management, or you can say the infrastructure management, for basically storing the data in a very convenient way. This examination paper talks about the design and kinds of distributed computing administrations, just as correlation of the presentation and administration among three principles. That is that is cloud computing stages, Microsoft Azure, Amazon AWS, and Google Cloud Platform. So we will discuss about understanding the architecture. We have front end and back end. And the front end is that client side, that is the client is which is working on the computer, that of cloud computing is referred to as the front end of the cloud architecture. It contains all of the UI and applications that the client uses to access cloud resources. For example, to access the cloud platform, you may need the help of a web browser. On the other hand side, we can see the backend. The cloud itself, as used by the service provider, is referred to as backend, on which the management is working. It holds the resources, maintains them, and incorporates security procedures. It also contains massive storage, virtual applications, virtual computers, traffic management techniques, deployment, and models, etc. As you can see in the figure. Then we have three categories for the cloud services. They are IEEE, PAAS, and SAAS. That is infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. First one, the infrastructure as a service is a solution delivery model that entails the leasing of a company's hardware to support the business of other customers, which includes storage spaces, hardware, servers, and network components. Then we will talk about PAAS, that is a solution delivery paradigm that allows users to lease virtualized machines along with related facilities for the use of current software as well as for the production. Then next one we have SAAS. This technique enables for the most efficient working of software applications, smooth administration, lower pricing, and the elimination of the need for obtaining software licenses. Then we will talk about cloud service providers use. That is, there are three types of cloud service providers mainly. That first one is Azure, Microsoft Azure. Then the second one is Amazon Web Services, and the third one is Google Cloud. Microsoft Azure is a service for cloud computing and a web platform that allows users to access and administer the data, Microsoft's cloud services and resources. The second one is Amazon Web Services. Many firms around the world use AWS to create, deploy, and host applications, whether they are IT homes or startups, governments, or retail groups. Netflix, Adobe, Coinbase, and others are among them. Third one, we have Google Cloud. Google Cloud operate on the same architecture as Google's other major applications such as YouTube, Gmail, and others. Then we have the comparison and result of these three clouds. That is, the quality of these cloud provider services are compared based on user reviews on the internet. And we have used Phoronix Test Suite 10.4 is used to access performance and the results for the Apache DBench and RAM speed. Benchmarks are analyzed. Below is the price comparison of the chart. You can see the price chart. Next we have that for testing performance, VM instances of Ubuntu Linux Server 16.04 64-bit were created on AWS, Azure, and GCP. On all the three platforms, Apache, DBench, and MSpeed, benchmark test processes, including the Phoronix Test Suite, were completed. Then we have the last Apache benchmark graph. That is, Apache measures the total system performance and relates to the count of requests that the server can reply to when there are 1 million requests and 100 of them are competitive. Then we can have DBench test. This is this freeware test disk performance by the sending requests to the file system. Then we have conducted RAM speed test. This is a benchmark test for determining RAM efficiency, copy, scale, add, write, and average. With a 5 test configuration for this. All these 5 test configurations are tested for integer as well as floating point. Then I've been moving towards conclusion. That is, even though Google Cloud is ahead in the race of the cloud computing that many cloud providers, it still has a long way to go before it captures the whole market like it did with the search engine. And the last one is that AWS infrastructure is better suited for Linux and VM since it provides more possibilities for end users to customize, as evidenced by memory, RAM speed results. When we come to the difference between average of Azure and GCP was not much in Apache benchmark test. GCP failed to give them tough competition in DBench and RAM speed benchmark. So clearly we can say that Google Cloud is ahead in the race of the cloud computing. That's all from my side. I'm open for the questions.
Thank you so much, Devang. Any questions from the session chair or the audience?
No, madam, that is the good.
Okay, sir. Thank you. We'll move ahead to the next paper ID 120, Web Development and Performance Comparison of Web Development Technologies in Node.js and Python. It will be presented by Mr. Sai Srinandan Pellappan.
Yes, ma'am. Just a second. I'll be sharing my screen. I hope my screen is visible, ma'am.
Yes, it's visible.
Good evening, everybody. This is Srinandan, and today I'll be presenting our paper, Web Development and Performance Comparison of Web Development Technologies in Node.js and Python. The authors for this paper are myself, Srinandan, Prakash, Shashikant, and we have written this paper in our able guidance of our faculty from Amity University, Greater Noida, Mr. Basudev, Dr. Vimal Bhibu, and Mr. Amardeep Gupta. There are 5 sections in these paper presentation. The first one is introduction. Second, process involved in developing a website.
Sorry to interrupt you. Would request you to skip to the research outcomes and findings.
Yes, ma'am, sure. We have talked about introduction and how we develop websites. And third part is content development networks, which is a CDN, which are proxy servers. And we have also discussed mobile websites and how we, regular websites are optimized to be better able to deliver content to the users. And finally, this is the most important part of a research paper, which is comparison between Python server using Flask and Node.js with Express. Let us first understand what these two technologies are. Python, it's a programming language that is beginner friendly and allows the coder to work fast and with its easy and readable grammar. There are many applications of Python in modern day, and in our code for this test, we have used Flask framework for Python web server. And coming to Node.js, Node.js is a server-side coding language, which is built of Chrome's JavaScript runtime. It executes JavaScript outside the browser, which is the main feature of the Node.js. Using Node.js, we are able to build fast and scalable network applications. We have used the Express framework of Node.js to build the server for the Node.js for the test we have conducted. Coming to the testing tools, we have used 2 third-party testing tools in our experiment, and we ran the test twice to make sure that the results are consistent. The test is run for a period of 30 seconds, and the software are configured to simulate 10 users. The first software that we used is Locust, which is an open source load testing tool that helps to test websites or services. This is Python-based software, and it is scalable and hackable to suit our needs. Similar to Locust is another software that is AutoCannon. It is a HTTP benchmarking tool written in Node.js. We have used the latest version, that is AutoCannon 7.4.0. AutoCannon also lets a user determine various parameters for the test. Like Locust, AutoCannon also bombards the given URL with simultaneous requests and tracks the response. For our test methodology, we have evaluated the results in 2 respects. First one is that the responses that are handled per second by the server, and the other is the response time. Since we are running both the benchmark software and the server on the same device, which is a laptop, we have limited the number of users to 10 to avoid excessive CPU usage, otherwise which can cause irregular time calculation and server response. So quickly having a look on our results, we have found out that Node.js clearly outperformed the Python server. The Node.js server has handled over 250 times more requests than Python. The average requests handled by Node.js in 30-second time frame were around 30,616. The failure percentage in both the cases was 0%, confirming that the system resources that we gave for the servers were adequate to run the test. An important measure of the performance for any server is a mean time per request, that is time taken to serve a request. Under same conditions, Node.js has an average time of 7 milliseconds, while Python took around 2040 milliseconds, which is very huge compared to Node.js. Another parameter which we can use for analysis and comparison is latency. In layman terms, latency is the time taken for the data to be transferred from the server to the destination here being the browser. Average latency of Node.js was only 1.04 milliseconds, which is very fast. This indicates that the Node.js performs better where the number of users is very high. On the other hand, Python server's latency increased many folds with increase in users. That is the number of users from 0 to 10 increases with increase in time. It plateaued at.
I would request you to conclude.
Sure, ma'am. It plateaued at 14,000 milliseconds towards the end of the test. In conclusion, we can say that the web development industry has seen one of the most enormous and fastest growth in history of mankind. Through this paper, we have made an attempt to consolidate the major milestones in this path. Also, in this paper, we have presented a comparative analysis of Node.js and Python on based on the analysis on requests per second, latency, and total number of requests. We have concluded that Node.js has performed way better than Python server, and Node.js was better at handling multiple users submitting requests simultaneously. Thank you. We'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much. Any questions from the audience or the session chair? No questions, Mr. Sai. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everybody.
Do we have somebody from paper ID 9, 465, 59, and 462?
Ma'am, paper ID 59, we are here.
Okay, you can go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. I hope everything
Would
is
request you
visible.
to skip to the research findings.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Prajwal P, and I'm going to be presenting our paper on design and implementation of FM transceiver using Raspberry Pi and SDR. As we all know, SDR is nothing but software-defined radio, which contains embedded software system along with some hardware components with real-time constraints. So, of course, like everybody, we have done our literature survey, and we have learned a few limitations and how to integrate MATLAB, Simulink, and our components of SDR and Raspberry Pi. So we divided our project into 4 main objectives, and we took it step by step rather than doing everything at once. Now, coming to the methodology, so our main aim was to transmit an FM signal and receive it. So we made use of the Raspberry Pi to transmit our FM signal. So how we did that was we used a C code and coded our Raspberry Pi to behave as an FM transmitter using its GPIO pin 4. So when our antenna was connected to that and our code was written to that, so it would transmit the FM signal at a particular frequency. So this was the transmission phase. Coming to the reception phase, we used software-defined radio by NoElec company. So what we did was we integrated that with our laptop using Simulink. So we connected it to our laptop, and we had to find a block on Simulink that we could use to configure our SDR. And we added a few signal processing blocks so that we were able to receive the signal and also demodulate the signal so that we can hear the FM audio that was transmitted by our Raspberry Pi. So our blocks included frequency discriminator, which does direct frequency to amplitude changes, and also audio extraction, which once the remodulated data is taken, it will generate an audio file and will be given to the audio device. And as you can see in the diagram, the frequency discriminator and the audio extraction, that are the main blocks, also has some sub blocks like delay, product, notch filter, low pass filter, which I don't want to get in too deep, too technical. So as I mentioned, we were able to transmit the signal, an FM audio signal from our Raspberry Pi, and we were able to listen to it on our laptop using the SDR. Coming to the results, as you can see, the first graph depicts the input wave, meaning the wave that we received initially from the Raspberry Pi. And the second spectrum indicates the audio that we heard after the data was demodulated once we received from the Raspberry Pi. Now, coming to the future scope, we want to take this project a step further by finding an application in the healthcare industry, mainly in the ambulance service, by automating the traffic signals. This can be done using a USRP as a transmitter and the SDR as a receiver. And I would like to conclude by saying that we were successfully able to design a communication system for FM signals. And we were also able to hear a clear audio with minimal delay within a range of 40 meters. And this can be extended further, as I mentioned, using a USRP for a range up to 10 kilometers. Thank you. And these are our references.
Thank you so much.
Any questions, and we will be able to take it up.
No questions. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
I thank all the dignitaries and authors to be a part of this conference event, day 1. We'll meet again tomorrow morning. Thank you all. IT may please close the session.